Board members, as I call you United, please reply present for the public record. Danielle Jones, Joyce Allison Neal, Laura McIntyre, Adrian Walker, Chris Gilmore,
Present.
Alan Gilbert,
Here.
and myself, Carol McIntosh, is present. At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public. Members of the public are recommended that the Board of Education, by its bylaw 1370, are not obligated to answer questions, make statements, or comments in response to the issues raised by the public in general. Such issues will be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendation. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please remember to state your name and state your address for the public record before you begin speaking. Thank you. The next portion of our meeting, do we have some people from the public? I'm sorry. Miss Carrie Brown.
Good evening, board. Also, I'd like to say happy Board Appreciation Month. So grateful for your dedication and the service that you provide to the Flint community. I'm here to give you an update about Flint Community Education Initiative and the work that we've been doing in collaboration with Flint Community Schools. I'd like to start out by reporting that we have this year, for the 21-22 school year, already served 1,482 unique students. Additionally, we've served 612 unique adults through our Flint Community Education program, and it's taking place in all 11 Flint Community Schools. Some specific highlights that I would like to share tonight. The first one comes from Flint Elementary School. Flint's CEI team, the Community Education Initiative team, partnered with Nominate, a grassroots organization in Flint, to offer additional exposure opportunities for scholars in addition to the programming that's provided by UQuest. Nominate takes a learning approach to combining technology and engineering with engaging topics for youth. Scholars visited Dortmund's East facility, the Electronic Arts and Sports Training Center, to learn about video game development, electronics, and esports 2 days a week. A cohort of 12 scholars attended the class twice a week. At Eisenhower, they intentionally incorporated their reading program into the Youth Plus program that was already taking place during homework time, which starts at 4 p.m. The scholars who are in this new program work with their tutor to complete outstanding schoolwork without having to attempt to do it independently at home on the weekend. This represents a big victory for scholars needing additional support to improve their literacy. At Southwestern, led by Community School Director Mohammed About-Tawila, Principal Chris Acknowledgement, and Southwestern's Counseling Department, Southwestern's Senior Parent Night engaged more than 40 families. During the event, families reviewed an action plan for seniors to graduate high school on time and a checklist for seniors to utilize to stay on track towards graduation. In addition, Flint and I invited FCS board member Adrian Walker to tell seniors his personal story of success, his college experience, and his career experience. Thank you, board member Walker. Additionally, Flint operates success mentoring programs at all school sites we serve. Nethercut's community education team has worked diligently to support students with attendance challenges through this strategy and demonstrated the highest rate of growth in mentoring sessions for the month. For the month of November, 20 students completed 149 sessions with mentors, totaling 2,140 minutes of mentoring. All of the program we provide in collaboration with Flint Community Schools is of no cost to families, and I'd encourage anyone listening tonight, if you're interested in connecting with the free after-school program and any other supports, please reach out to the Community School Director at your Flint Community School. Thank you so much for it.
And our next community member will be Mr. Arthur Wilson.
Hi. early childhood. Early childhood, that's where a lot of money is going. Federal government is talking about sending money, the state talking about sending money, but we don't have our early childhood. That's something that Snyder and GISD took. And they only took it from certain areas of Genesee County, which was Flint, Carmen Ainsworth, and Beach. $9.2 million back on June 16, 2013. Snyder then took it. Carmen Ainsworth got theirs back because the superintendent is now the assistant superintendent over at GISD. And they just got theirs back right after the hearing that he testified at against Flint schools getting into the Act 18 funding. So I guess that was his reward for testifying against and saying, even though they were going to get a lot of money extra from changing the Act 18 formula, he said, we don't want it. Carmen Ainsworth doesn't want it. What type of sense does that make? The only thing you can look at is, I'm bought and paid for it. So, what I'm alluding to is this. If Carmen Ainsworth was able to get their early childhood back right after that hearing, no questions asked, no problem. Flint should be able to go over to GISD and tell them that we want our early childhood back. I understand we have to play in the sand together. I mean, you know, y'all got those beautiful shields up there. It look like they got handles on them. Y'all gonna carry it home with y'all every week. I'm sorry. But I'm serious, man. Playing in the sand box together is okay. But at some point, we have to put our foot down and say, you know what? Everything that was taken away from us, we want back. It's nothing against you, but our kids deserve the best, and we shouldn't need an overseer. We don't need nobody overseeing us, man, like the county. Every time we turn around, the county has to approve it. The county has to do this. The money goes to the county, and then it comes to us. Man, that just looks like one big plantation to me. I'm serious. I mean, I'm just saying what it is. And then I checked on that Insight group. The Insight group is, hey man, I did some research on it. They fantastic. They got their stuff together. They got federal awards and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to nominate Superintendent Jones to serve as acting chairperson.
Someone else.
Oh, is there? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have a patient for that.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My comments are a concern about the safety of students in this building and people who attend these meetings. I'm not sure what you want me to do. My family attended Flint schools. Yes. Did somebody ask me, sir?
Your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Harold Ford. I was going to fully introduce myself. My family attended Flint schools. I student taught in Flint schools. I substitute taught in Flint schools. But I spent 43 years in the Beach Community School District as an educator in 3 different capacities. I've been writing about Flint Community Schools for the last 5 to 6 years for East Village Magazine. In mid-December at your last meeting, which I attended, I walked out the back door, I parked my car on the side, and I was confronted by the largest dog I've ever seen. Now mind you, I was a meter reader for the city of Flint for 2 years. I've been in probably at least 50% of the homes in the city of Flint. I was a jogger for decades. I'm very familiar with dog behavior. I knew how to respond, thank goodness. The dog did not attack me. The owner, I suppose it was the owner, appeared around the corner within about 30 seconds. The dog did not have a leash. The owner was a white male, 30-something, I would guess, took the dog away in a hurry. I asked him what kind of dog it was. I went home and did my research. It's a South African Boer Bull, and an adult male, the kind of dog I confronted, I'm sure it was a male, can grow to 170 to 220 pounds. It can be very friendly with the family that it knows. It can also be very territorial, and it's a powerful animal. And the next day I typed up a letter about my experience along with the research that I found about the South African Boer Bull, and I took it to the Flint Police Department. So I would like to encourage you to use caution when you come to these meetings and when you leave these meetings, to inform your security department. I'm sure that dog lives with its owner somewhere in this neighborhood. It was unleashed, and it can be a very dangerous dog. I have a copy of my comments along with some research on the Boer Bull that I would like to give to the superintendent and to the president of the board. Thank you for your time.
Are there any other members of the community? Okay, at this time, I would like to nominate Superintendent Jones to serve as acting chairperson for action item 21.9. This motion is before you, and I seek a second. Support. It has been moved and properly seconded that Mr. Jones serves as acting chairperson at this time. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. For the public's information, for those who are here, could someone explain to them what we will be doing this evening at this meeting?
We are nominating our officers for the positions on the board. It will be 7 people that sit here. You start with the president, and then you work your way down and you'll nominate different members of the board to take those positions.
Okay. Anyone can be nominated or self-nominate?
Yes, and 4 votes secures you to a seat. At this time, seeing there are no further questions, I will now conduct a roll call vote. When I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. Ms. Green?
Yes.
Joyce Ellis Newhill?
Yes.
Laura McIntyre?
Yes.
Adrian Walker?
Yes.
Chris Delmarone?
Yes.
Albert Gilbert?
Yes.
And myself, Carol McIntyre. I now turn, the motion passes 7 yes and 0 no. I'll turn the floor over to Superintendent Jones at this time. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Trustee McIntosh.
Yes.
Action item 2110 deals with the nomination and election of president. The process for the election is that I will entertain all nominations for this position. Once I have all nominations, we will have a roll call vote. I ask that when I call your name, you give the name of the candidate of your choice. Once I have completed the roll call and we have a majority vote, the selection for the office of president will be completed. Are there any questions or comments before we begin? As I stated, the first office is that of president for 2022. I will entertain all nominations at this time.
I'd like to nominate Trustee Danielle Green for the office of president.
Okay, one moment. Are there any other nominations?
Yes. I would like to nominate Carol McIntosh for president.
Okay, one moment. Are there any other nominations?
I will nominate myself, Chris Delmarone.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. At this time, we're going to start the nomination process with a roll call vote for our first nomination, which is for board member Daniel Green to be considered president of the Flint School Board, nominated by Adrian Walker. Question. I have a question. Does Daniel vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Board member Daniel Green.
Daniel Green.
Joyce Ellis McNeil.
Daniel Green.
Laura McIntyre.
Daniel Green.
Adrian Walker. Daniel Green. Chris Delmarone.
Carol McIntosh.
Alan Gilbert.
Carol McIntosh.
And Carol McIntyre.
Carol McIntosh.
All right, we have 4 for Ms. Danielle Green to be the president and 3 for Ms. Carol McIntosh. Danielle Green. Members of the board, we have reached a majority vote for president. The majority indicates that we will have Danielle Green serve as president for 2022. At this time, I would like to turn the floor over to our newly elected president. And before I do that, I would like to thank our president for 2021, Ms. Carol McIntosh, for an awesome job. And the floor is now yours. Congratulations.
I now will continue the election process as Mr. Jones outlined. Once I receive all nominations, I will conduct a roll call vote. You will state your name and your candidate of choice. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, are there any nominations for vice president? Yes. Myself. Okay. Joyce McNeil. Okay. Any more nominations?
Vice President.
Yes.
Yes, I nominate Chris Delmarone.
Okay. Any more nominations? Seeing no other nominations, we will now conduct the roll call vote. Myself, Danielle Green, Joyce McNeil. Joyce McNeil. Joyce McNeil. Laura McIntyre. Joyce McNeil. Adrian Walker.
Miss Joyce McNeil.
Chris Delmarone.
Joyce McNeil.
Alan Gilbert.
Chris Delmarone.
Carol McIntosh.
Chris Delmarone.
Members of the board, we have reached a majority vote for vice president. The majority indicates that we will have a Joyce McNeil serve as vice president for 2022. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Are there any nominations for secretary? I'd like to nominate Adrian Walker. Any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, we will now conduct a roll call vote. Danielle Green, my vote is for Adrian Walker. Joyce Ellis McNeil.
Adrian Walker.
Laura McIntyre.
Adrian Walker.
Adrian Walker.
Adrian Walker.
Alan Gilbert.
Adrian Walker.
Carol McIntosh.
Adrian Walker.
Chris Delmarone, I'm sorry.
Adrian Walker.
Members of the board, we have now reached a majority vote for secretary. The majority vote indicates that we will have Adrian Walker serve as secretary for 2022. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Are there any nominations for treasurer? Joyce McNeil.
Laura McIntyre.
Any other nominations? Seeing no other nominations, we will now conduct a roll call vote. Danielle Green, and my vote is for Laura McIntyre. Joyce McNeil.
Laura McIntyre.
Laura McIntyre.
Laura McIntyre.
Adrian Walker.
Laura McIntyre.
Chris Delmarone.
Laura McIntyre.
Alan Gilbert.
Laura McIntyre.
Carol McIntosh.
Laura
No,
McIntyre.
Laura McIntyre.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha. I'm just asking Carol McIntosh.
Laura McIntyre.
Okay. Members of the board, we have reached a majority vote for treasurer. The majority indicates that we now have Laura McIntyre serve as treasurer for 2022. Congratulations. Are there any nominations for assistant secretary treasurer?
Chris Delmarone.
Any nominations for assistant secretary treasurer? Chris Delmarone? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any other nominations?
Yeah, I said Chris.
Okay. No other nominations. So I will conduct a roll call vote. Danielle Green, my vote is for Chris Delmarone. Joyce Ellis McNeil.
Chris Delmarone.
Laura McIntyre.
Chris Delmarone.
Adrian Walker.
Chris Delmarone.
Chris Delmarone.
Chris Delmarone.
Alan Gilbert.
Chris Delmarone.
Carol McIntosh.
Chris Delmarone.
Members of the board, we have reached a majority vote for assistant secretary treasurer. The majority indicates that we will have Chris Delmarone serve as assistant secretary treasurer for 2022. Congratulations. We don't? Okay. Okay. I'm glad you said that, because I would have did it. Yep, it's the same thing. Administration care. What is that? No, I ain't never seen him.
What's that?
I've never, Carol,
Yes.
do you recall us having an assistant
I
secretary
don't see-
administration?
Yeah, it's not in the Bible.
We've never had that since we've been on the
I
board.
don't ever recall that.
Really? I don't know what that is.
I'll just read the minutes so we
Okay.
can all understand the same thing.
Okay.
21.7 from last year's nomination and election of Assistant Secretary Treasurer, Administration. That's what it says. Acting Chairperson was Anita Stewart, nominated Ayanna Dampre.
Oh,
Interim Executive Director of Finance to be named Assistant Secretary Treasurer of Administration from January 2021 until the organizational meeting of 2022. So there were no other nominations.
okay.
Oh,
So for today, because I know it wasn't a board member, I don't recall.
I nominate,
Okay.
seems like Anita nominated last year. I nominate Ms. Dampre.
All righty, I will conduct a roll call vote.
What we voting on?
So this is
Which number we voting on?
2115.
2115.
2115, though, is Assistant Secretary Treasurer, okay, Administration?
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
that seemed like that would be, okay, so I will conduct a roll call vote.
point of order,
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair. What does the bylaw say?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the, I don't have the bylaw.
This is the minutes from last year, so we could look into the bylaw.
Okay, good idea.
Maybe it's the person that works with Ms. Lawrence. I mean, it gotta be the person that works with Ms. Lawrence.
Where's the assistant treasurer? Where's this one? If she's doing 2115, where's the assistant treasurer? That's supposed to be the
It
assistant.
says what, I'm sorry?
The assistant secretary is 2114, The 2115 should be your assistant treasurer.
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
So, with that being said, it's in the bylaws, so this is something that we can and should do. So, I will conduct a roll call vote. Danielle Green and my our vote for Mrs. Dumpre. Joyce Ellis McNeil.
I don't even understand what I'm voting for, so I'm gonna pass.
You got your bylaws with you? Well, maybe Ms. Dumpre could come up here and give us, since she did it last year. Would you mind, Ms. Dumpre?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we have one member has a question over here.
Yeah,
Yeah, so my
Okay.
question is, let me start off with, who's eligible to run for this position? I mean,
I've never heard of it. It's not a, it seems like it's not a board seat. No, it's not a board seat. This is something, because me and Carol can agree that I've never heard of that. So, what it's saying, administration is I'm thinking that it's somebody from administration that would be eligible for that. Logically, secretary treasurer, I don't know who would be more qualified than Ms. Dumpre. Do you guys want to listen to what Ms. Dumpre may have to give us more information on
oh,
it?
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Pastor Gilbert.
Yes.
Whatever light can be shed.
Madam Chair, the point of information is, so who has the authority to reappoint Ms. Dumpre or someone else within the administration? Who has that authority?
Good question. I don't, to be perfectly honest with you, Pastor Gilbert, this is not something that I recall us ever
I don't
doing.
recall doing
Since
this
and I've been on, this is my 6th year on the board. I'm not sure.
And
And Mo's not here to kind of help us out, so I'm not sure, but we can have Ms. Dumpre give us a little background if you don't mind. Okay, thank you.
So I don't have any information to provide to you because last year was my first year in the position, and they told me that the CFO always takes that position. I didn't do anything different. I didn't do anything extra. They told me that was my role. I had that official title, but I didn't do anything different.
Okay, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna say this again. Being on the board for going into my 6th year, this is not something I even recall ever voting on. So how would you guys want to, can we table it? Would you guys like to table it so we can get more information?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. Somebody need to make a motion to table?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been made to table the nominations for the election of the Secretary Treasurer Administration. Do I got to give a date?
Oh, we can take it to the governance subcommittee.
Okay, we'll take it to the governance subcommittee. They'll come back with more information so we can all have some clarity. I think that's the best move. Okay.
Vote to table it.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry. So we'll vote to table. As I call your name, say yay or nay. Myself, yay to table. Joyce Ellis McNeil.
Yes.
Laura McIntyre.
Yes.
Adrian Walker.
Yes.
Chris Delmarone.
Yes.
Alan Gilbert.
Yes.
Carol McIntosh.
Yes.
The motion passes 7-0 to table. Appointment of the Flint Board of Education Liaison and alternate to the Genesee County Association of Board Members, GCA-SMB, Executive Cabinet 2022. I seek a nomination that in the past, the president and vice president has served. So just so, because I think this is what we talked about, right, Dr. McNeil? Because
I did it last year.
You did it last year? Okay, okay. So do you want to make a nomination for somebody to do it this year?
I would like, Pastor Gilbert, if you.
No?
Want it, okay.
You sure? Okay. Chris Delmarone, I'd like to nominate you, if you'd accept that.
I will. I'll take on that role. I'll learn
Okay.
about it.
Is there any other nominations? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Myself, Danielle Green, and my vote is for Chris Delmarone. Joyce Ellis McNeil.
Yes, Chris.
Laura McIntyre.
Chris Delmarone.
Adrian Walker.
Chris Delmarone.
Chris Delmarone.
Chris Del Moroni.
Pastor Gilbert.
Chris Delmarone.
Carol McIntosh.
Chris Delmarone.
Okay. So, Ms. Chris Demarone, unanimously it passes. You are the new Flint Board of Education Liaison and alternate to the Genesee County Association of Board Members. Congratulations. At this time, I would like a round of applause for our new board member officers of 2022.
Dan.
This concludes the annual organization meeting. This meeting is now adjourned. What time is it? 7:03. It's 7:03.
Then we switch seats now?
Yeah, it's time to switch seats before the next meeting.
So where I'm going at to this?
Yes, ma'am, you're supposed to switch seats.
I'm glad you're here, Carol, because I forgot.
This is where you started.
Okay. That's good.
I think, and y'all, I think with the COVID though, we should be doing our.
I agree.
Thank you.
Where's the Lysol, Arthur?
This is your next meeting, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Call it to order.
And say the time, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I would like to call the Flint Board of Education Committee of the whole meeting to order. The time is, what time is it?
7:03.
It's 7:03 p.m. Board members, as I call your name, please reply present for the public record. Myself, present. Joyce McNeil.
Present.
Laura McIntyre.
Present.
Adrian Walker.
Present.
Chris Demarone.
Present.
Pastor Gilbert.
Present.
Carol McIntosh.
Present.
At this time, the board will hear any comments from the public. Members of the public are reminded that the Board of Education, by bylaws 1370, are not obligated to answer questions, make statements, or comments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such issues will be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, or recommendation. Please state your name and address before you begin to speak.
Point of information.
Yes, sir.
President Green. I don't see anywhere on the agenda where we can make some changes, additions, or subtractions. I see nowhere here on the agenda where board members can have the opportunity to comment. Nothing about old business, new business. I just think board members should have the opportunity to comment on things. If
Okay.
we could add that somewhere.
Yep, absolutely. Where would you like me to add it? It's up to you.
I would think maybe after comments from the public.
Okay.
And then again, any final comments or announcements at the end.
Gotcha. So I'll put it, like you said, right after public comment, and we'll put it, you want to get before superintendent updates or after?
It might be best to do it after, because the last words normally come from the board.
Okay, so let's do it after superintendent's updates at the end, okay? That works?
That's fine, so long as if something comes up that we can take action on it.
Okay.
And Madam
Madam
President?
Chair,
Yes?
Oh, Madam President?
I can't see nothing, y'all. I'm
I know,
sorry.
This is hard. And I'd also, I made this recommendation last year, but I didn't know how to, there's a lot of stuff going on. If we could do a land acknowledgement.
Say it one more time.
If we could do a land acknowledgement
Okay.
for the land that we're occupying, I think it would be an appropriate tribute. Many other communities do it and school boards do it, and it would be, I think, a nice gesture for us.
A land acknowledgement.
Yes.
Okay, tell me more.
It's to acknowledge the indigenous land that we're occupying, and just to acknowledge the people that were here before us and that was illegally taken over and that we're using with that kind of an acknowledgement.
Okay, when would you like to do that? Are you saying you want it to be put on the agenda?
Yes, I would like it to be permanently put on at the beginning of the meeting, that we do a land acknowledgement for the land that we're on and the peoples that
So
lived here.
moving forward,
Yes.
that's something you want to,
Yes.
okay, so I'm not sure if that's something that
point
we
of
have to
order,
vote on.
Madam
or-
Chair.
Yes,
point of
sir.
order. That if that's fine with the board, we can do that. I have no objection, but it ought to be without objection. If there's some objection, it should be noted.
Right, absolutely. I don't have any objections to it. I'm not sure how we do the land acknowledgement. That's something we can talk more about, but I have no objections to that. Is it anybody who has any objections to that that's on the board?
Wouldn't it be a motion? that
Yes,
needs to
it
go
would.
on?
Yeah, make a
It
motion
would
and
be.
we'll take a vote.
Is that okay to do that now?
Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that, moving forward, that we make a land acknowledgement at the beginning of board meetings for the Flint Community Schools.
Support.
so it has been, motion has been properly supported. Oh, we gotta get a second. We got a second for it?
Support.
Okay, and a second, and we'll take a roll call vote. Any discussion?
Yes, did I understand
Okay,
you to
see that.
say, Board Member McIntyre, that we will be doing this at every meeting?
It's just it's a statement. I can get a statement, a draft statement, so that everyone can, I think that Dr. David Lukes at the University of Michigan Flint has a very nice one that he does at the University of Michigan. And I can get, with your permission, we can get, something that, a statement for the Flint Community Schools that we can use formally moving forward.
Yeah, I don't mind the acknowledgement. I'm just wondering the need for it at every meeting.
It's like saying an Indigenous Pledge of Allegiance.
So your request is we do it at the COWs, the full board meetings, subcommittees, or just so we can be clear on exactly what we want?
I would propose that we do it at the beginning of every board meeting, so the cow and the meeting. It's very simple. It's just, a couple of sentences of acknowledgement, and then you move on.
Point of order,
But
Madam
it's the
Chair.
right thing to do, and it's respectful.
Okay, Pastor Gilbert?
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Green. If Sister McIntyre will want to do that, you probably need to make an amendment to your motion. Because now you're saying you want a certain language in there. We need to know what that looks like.
Okay, Dr. McNeil?
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I just think, you made a suggestion. I just think that we should have further discussion on this, another meeting, see what that wording is saying, because everybody do not share the same
That's right.
view. So I just think that we just can't make a decision like that without everybody having a comfort understanding of what it is that we're requesting. So I just would like to move that we take this up until you get a clear understanding of what those wordings are.
So we want to table this also for further discussion? Okay, so I respect what you're saying. I would
Yes.
like to know more, because I don't know
It's the first time I heard.
anything. I've never, but I want to know more. So tabling, I think, is the right move for us. So I make a motion to table this.
Madam Chair, point of order.
Yes, sir.
You have a motion on the floor. It's been properly made and seconded.
Okay.
You have to do away with that. If Sister McIntyre wants to withdraw a motion, she can do that.
I can
And then
withdraw
you can-
the motion for
Okay.
further discussion, but that would be
Because you didn't get a
nice.
second anyway.
No, I did get a second.
Yeah.
But I will withdraw. It was just, I brought it up last year, and there's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
so thank you very much for your consideration and your time.
Yeah.
So you're withdrawing your motion. Thank you, Pastor Gilbert. So I make a motion to table, I don't, okay.
You know,
Okay, so I'm good. Yes, sir.
Unless you want to make another motion concerning that. The floor is open for that. You
Well,
have to be proper.
so whatever we got to do to get more information and just get
Yeah, I
educated
think
on what the Lord wants.
Dr. Joyce is correct. I think that's what her intent was, to get more information. Not
Okay.
that we would be, and Board Member Dale Marone's question is legitimate.
Absolutely.
We just want to know what it is,
Yeah.
and so we'll know what we're doing, and we're not throwing darts in the
I
dark.
agree. I agree.
So if we're clear, Board Member McIntyre, are you gonna bring the one that's written up that you are suggesting and maybe some research on it? We can help in any way you want us to help.
Sure, with the board's permission, I can't speak for Dr. Lukes, but him or somebody else maybe could come and just give you some information, and there's statements that other school boards and other institutions
They do
read.
it. Yeah,
It's just something that's becoming more commonplace in the 21st century.
Okay. Okay, so we look forward to that. I guess it'll go on the agenda at the next meeting. Is that what that's what I would like to see as soon as possible.
I'll let the board know. I'll try to contact whoever is willing and able to,
Okay.
have the time to do that.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, back to taking comments from the public. I have one slip and carry down.
Good evening again, Board. Can you hear me okay? I had additional updates. We had a really busy November and December, but I first want to say congratulations to the newly elected board officers. Congratulations. So picking back up on our highlights, I'm so happy to highlight a Holmes attendance team hosted an attendance party for scholars with perfect attendance for the months of September and October. There were 66 scholars in September and 55 scholars in October with perfect attendance. Each received a $25 Walmart gift card and a pizza lunch and enjoyed a dance party. Doyle Ryder's community education team collaborated with James Fountain Foundation to provide 75 families with turkeys and gift cards for the Thanksgiving holiday. This giveaway took place at the school with 137 turkeys distributed, ensuring that all Doyle Ryder families were served. To guarantee families who could not pick up the free turkey and gift cards at the giveaway, a partnership was established with Second Chance Church to pass out the remaining donations to deliver them to doorsteps. Additionally, in November, Holmes and Eisenhower collaborated to facilitate a food giveaway for residents in the city of Flint. The Food Bank of Eastern Michigan provided over 141 families with fresh fruits, vegetables, dairy products, and meats. The distribution took place in the parking lot of the Hallwood Plaza located at the north end of Flint. Due to the high demand of the food, it was all distributed by 11:45 a.m., and Holmes is looking forward to continuing this strategy in 2022. The community education team at Potter hosted their annual holiday celebration to close the school year. Scholars received books, holiday bags, coloring books, and other educational items. In addition, Community School Director Jesse McGraw secured a donation for 300 toys from Richfield Industries to ensure that every scholar went home with a gift. While this represents one of many effective partnerships in action, Jesse and Richfield Industries have been collaborating for 5 years, but the relationship started because of a Richfield employee who is a Potter Elementary alumnus. Homestead Middle School Academy in December hosted a game between the school staff and students matched up against officers from the Flint Police Department in a friendly basketball game at the school. The school resource officer organized the Flint Police's squad, and Community School Director Jermaine Jones played a key role in coordinating the event. Home students not playing in the game cheered their classmates and teachers to a victory from the stands. Jermaine and the school resource officer have discussed plans for another game in the future. The Flint CEI team at Brownell partnered with Total Life Prosperity, a grassroots organization here in Flint, to host Active and Healthy Kids Day, which provided 77 students, families, and community members with winter coats, hats, and gloves. Referrals were taken in advance in order to reserve enough supplies, with additional families served at the event. McLaren Health Services and Genesee Health Plan were on site to provide COVID-19 vaccines and additional health services to the school and neighborhood community. Some upcoming events. We have skating clinics going on. The next one is January 25th from 5 to 6, completely free, no cost to students and families. And then also Homestead Middle School Academy will hosting their chess tournament this month. And we're providing a financial preparedness class with Chase Bank right here at ALA on January 22nd from 10 to 1. Thank you so much, Board.
Thank you. One more, Arthur Woodson.
I just wanted to get up for a second to congratulate all you, everybody on the board for your new roles. Miss Carol McIntyre. I definitely want to thank you because it's without you, and the other 3 ladies, y'all fought hard last year. And it, to me, all I can do is speak for myself. To me, it looks like it put the school on a whole new trajectory. And we got Superintendent Jones,
We got Pastor Gilbert, Mr. Del Moroni, Mr. Walker. You were a leader, you know, and when the books are written, it's going to show that everything started with you as president of the school board. And I had to get up and say that.
Thank you so much. I'm truly here just to serve the public. Like I said, at the end of the year, it was an honor to serve you. I'm sure Ms. Green will do an amazing job, and I'm in full support of all of our officers. No matter where I sit, my fight will always be for our students, the people who work in our district and our community. So thank you.
So now I want my 40 seconds back. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. It's a beautiful thing, and I hope that you all can keep that teamwork going. Everybody, no, you can keep my time going. I'm not going to be up here that long. I just hope that, we all are going to disagree. We're never going to agree on everything. But when we do disagree, let's do it, together and professionally. Everybody don't have to air everything out in public. You can make a phone call and call somebody and say, hey, you know what, I don't agree with you on this. Can you tell me why you making this move? Because y'all are in a beautiful position, and you all are some beautiful, beautiful board members. And y'all have the opportunity to really move this school district forward and really bring our kids back to the city of Flint. And the school district is the catalyst of moving the city forward. And you gotta get some schools built, bring schools back, man, y'all can write books, man, on how y'all did it. You know what I mean? So just work together and keep that positive energy going. And just remember that, it takes all of y'all to work together to move Flint forward. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will call upon Troon Law Firm for information regarding the sale of district properties and socialization of bids.
Good evening, Board. My name is Gordon Van Wieren, and with me tonight is Mackenzie Flynn. She's an associate in my office, and she has some documents, if it please the Board, that she would like to distribute. I was here a few months ago and explained to the Board the process for selling property. I also explained to the Board that with regards to the district's vacant buildings and property, there's no bonded debt, which is a very good thing. Because there's no bonded debt on your properties, it gives the Board great flexibility on the way and manner in which you desire to market the properties. When I was at the Board meeting, it was very clear from the input that we received from the Board that in terms of transferring buildings and property, the focus was to be community-based. And with that charge, in the last couple of months, we've received input from various community agencies. I would like to thank former Board President Carol McIntosh for providing her input the last couple of months. And we're in a position now to recommend to the Board that we proceed to solicit bids for certain of the properties. And I want to be very clear in terms of soliciting bids, that's exactly what it would be. The Board would be taking no action to transfer property or to sell. Any action would come back to the Board of Education for review. What I believe is going to be critical in soliciting bids for the property is doing due diligence on the potential buyers. And by that I mean, it's going to be important to find out who the buyers are, what their background, do they have financial resources to redevelop school buildings that they're looking at, what type of time period are they looking at, and ultimately, what will be the use of the buildings. And certain of the people or the entities on the memo that we distributed are real estate developers. And those are the individuals that have expressed interest in certain of the properties. I know that the interest is transferring the property to community groups, and that'll continue to be our focus. So, as I indicated, the due diligence would include getting specific information from potential buyers as to what they want or propose to use the property for, what their backgrounds are, what their financial ability is to redevelop the properties. And so I'm here tonight to request that the board look at the various properties and determine what properties it would be in the best interest of the district to solicit bids for. I would indicate, in my experience, it would probably be in the best interest of the district not to solicit bids for too many of the properties. If you put, for example, 10 or 15 properties on the market at one time, it's going to be, could be very challenging to potential buyers and also to do the due diligence. My recommendation would be that we look at 4 or 5 specific properties, solicit bids, put information together, come back to the board with potential offers, and then talk. And that will be a springboard for looking at transferring the other properties that the district has. I know that the Board of Education has a meeting next week. I don't need, or I'm not requesting for specific action tonight, but we would like some feedback because we're excited about getting the properties out on the market. And again, simply because they're out on the market, we're soliciting bids. We're not taking any action to award bids or to do anything else. That comes back to the Board of Education for review and determination.
All right, thank you, sir. Do any board members have any questions for Truman? Mr. Demarone.
Yes, so these bids that would be put out, I'm assuming they would be what I want to call non-binding bids. So, you know, if someone offers something, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to accept the highest bid or the most responsible bid. Is that correct?
That is correct. And because there's no bonded debt on any of your properties, this Board of Education has the legal authority to accept a bid that is less than another bid if the board feels it's in the best interest of the community. So if you have competing bids, then the board has the discretion. And you raise a very important point, and that is we're simply soliciting offers. Any action to sell property would require a vote of the Board of Education in an open meeting. So, and the bid documents would be very clear that by submitting an offer, they're non-binding and simply would come back to the board for review.
So the school district owns a variety of properties, empty lots, schools that have been burnt down, destroyed probably beyond repair, buildings that are open and functioning. Your analysis included what properties, and did you place a value on those properties?
No, we have not, I believe, intentionally put a value on the properties because certain of the properties, when they're put out on the market for community-based groups, there may be offers that are not what are considered fair market value offers, but they can still be transferred to those groups.
And can you tell us exactly what properties you were looking at?
The first properties that we're looking at are Johnson Elementary, Bryan Elementary, Merrill, and Dort Elementary. Those would be the first properties, but we would be very open to any input from the Board of Education as to properties they would like to see put on the market, because we work for you. So it is really the board's decision on how you want us to proceed and what properties.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Yeah, no, I think our gentleman who is speaking clearly iterated something I was thinking about.
And it just related to like the due diligence piece, right? I know they're doing their end, but I think on our end, we have to think about the community, specifically the neighborhoods and the plans that those neighborhoods have for where our school buildings are located as it relates to what we say yes and no to. So just wanted to make sure that, again, that's a part of our due diligence and in terms of making sure that we're bringing the community along with the decisions that we'll make as it relates to these properties.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Pastor Gilbert, did you have something?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask about, Board Member Chris Del Morone touched on the bids and stuff, but I wanted to talk about also, is there this vacant land? Is it anything that you can bring to the board concerning the vacant land, the land that has been, schools have been demolished or fire or whatever? Where are we at on that? Because some of our citizens have questioned me about that intently as to where we are and what's going on. And being on the board, I told them, I said, I really don't know. So if you could enlighten us and send us down the right path, it'd be much appreciated.
Sure. The focus to date has been on vacant school buildings because those are the district assets that can be repositioned. The vacant properties, we'd also like to put on the market. We'd like to know from the board what properties those would be. The interests that we've received to date have been on buildings themselves, not the vacant land, but we're open and excited about getting vacant land out on the market also.
Is that it, Pastor Gilbert?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Laura, I got you.
So I think I expressed this the last time that you were here. I'm not speaking for the board, but you asked for input from the board as to what kind of we're thinking about. And so just to reiterate, this isn't for me about a financial transaction. This is about restoring our community and doing the best that we can for the entire community. And I consider the school community as part of the larger community as well. And so this isn't going to be done without looking at a larger strategic plan and looking at what community partners are bringing to the table. Like you said, this isn't about a dollar amount. This isn't about selling to the highest bidder. This is about selling to and collaborating with the person with the purest heart, with the intentions for Flint. So that's where I'm coming from. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to look at a larger strategic plan about what we're going to do with all of our property, all of our buildings, all of our assets, and to move forward in that direction. So without, I don't want to just list 4 or 5 properties and solicit bids. I want us to have a plan about we're going to keep this, we're going to be doing a school here, we're going to be putting our ESSER dollars in this particular building, and then we're going to be encouraging this particular group to do their program or their project in this particular building. For me, that's how it's going to work. So it's not a financial or a real estate transaction. So I don't really feel like we can approach it in that manner necessarily. I think now that we've had our organizing committee meeting, that we can reorganize, convene, get maybe some subcommittees going, get some discussions going in tandem with these recommendations for the real estate. And so I just wanted to reiterate that and put that out there once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer McIntyre.
Yeah, as to your first point about selling real estate, it would be very easy just to put it on the market and sell it to the highest bidder. What we're talking about here is due diligence in terms of, talking and getting information from potential buyers. I really like the idea about a strategic plan. And we're willing to work with any of your board committees, the board as a whole, whatever we need to do, we'll make ourselves available so we can do that. If there are certain properties right now that the board feels they're in a position to move forward with, we're ready to go. If the board wants to step back and say, we need more of a strategic plan as to all of our properties, we're fine with that. We just wanted to get in front of the board tonight to say, we're ready to help the board and we're ready to move this forward, subject to the board's review and what's in the best interest of the community.
Thank you. Is Carol?
I was wondering, because at one point we spoke about if we rented land to developers. And I know we talked about this, and I can't remember what you told me, because my thought was the vacant lands or whatever land, because we knew we weren't going to be able to really get that big bang for the buck like we would like. But I thought the point was the community school holds large parcels of land within the city of Flint. It's hard to develop without land. So I thought we thought about leasing the land at some point to developers, because it was conversation about high rises being built on old community land, and the fact that we didn't have any billing on our properties. It was all free and clear. I thought that we would be able to lease those lands. Say if somebody built a high rise on our buildings, I thought we would be able to lease land, keep ownership of the land and just lease it to the people that have their buildings on there. What did we find out about that option?
Yeah, from a legal standpoint, that is permissible. The Board of Education can lease its land. It really comes down to determining from a market standpoint, are there potential buyers out there or lessees that are willing to lease property on a long-term basis. Generally, when you construct a building, you need a very long-term lease if you're doing simply a land lease, because financial institutions will not loan money unless you have a long-term lease on property or you hold title to it, you own it. So it is certainly a possibility and certainly something that we can talk to potential buyers about. I know there are certain school properties that there's a building, but there's great excess land with that building, which can be divided off. The Board of Education can divide off excess land, can lease the excess land, can sell the building. This is one area of the law I'm very happy to say that the Board of Education has broad jurisdiction and authority to determine what to do with its property. There are very few restrictions, unlike many actions that the Board of Education wants to take where there are statutes and regulations you have to comply with. Here we can be greatly flexible in terms of whether you want to sell or lease your land. If you want to sell it on a land contract, for example, that's also an option. So really the playbook is wide open in terms of what you want to do with your property.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Ms. McIntosh, you all set?
That's
Vice President McNeil.
Good afternoon. There's a couple of things I do want to talk about, like item number 8 in our previous board meetings. There's a couple buildings and land that we precisely said that was not on the menu, even to be thinking about purchase and buying, and number 8 seemed to keep popping back up. So we know that anybody looking for that building right there, previous board members, we taken number 8 off and another building off. So that was one of them that I don't even think you should waste your time negotiating with that, because that was one of them that was not in the list.
Right. The last time we were in front of the board, my understanding was that the high schools were not for sale. Those were properties, and what's listed on number 8 is simply an inquiry that was made by certain individuals. And what we try to do in that situation is look to other properties that may be available that the individuals may be interested in, rather than a property the board is determined is not for sale.
Okay, and when it says unknown, I can just say like number 9, but they just looking for some property, because it didn't specifically say what they're looking for. When it says unknown, what are their feedbacks?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. The economic director for the city of Flint contacted us, and in the late fall, there was a bus tour of potential developers, potential community groups, and other buyers that toured all around the city of Flint and looked at various properties. So where it says unknown, it's not a specific property that the person who inquired was looking at, simply looking at all the properties. The other ones, for the most part, are specific buildings or properties that we were contacted about by a specific individual.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. You talked a little bit about the vetting process. What does that look like? And is that something that your firm does, or is that something we have to hire somebody else to do?
It's something that we can be very flexible. If there's someone on the district staff that can help us, we prefer to do that. We prefer to minimize the out-of-pocket costs for legal fees. If we can work with someone on your staff, we would prefer to have inquiries go to that individual. That individual would do the administrative work. We're willing to do it, but again, we would rather focus and work with someone at the district to keep the costs down.
So can you just tell me more what that process is and what it consists of? Because I'm not sure. I know you said what it should include, but what does that process look like?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. The process generally is if the board determines they want to solicit bids for a certain property, we put bid documents on the district's website, and there's a questionnaire that the prospective buyer has to fill out as to name, background, financial assets, proposed use of the property, what they're offering, how long they want to take for due diligence, that's their inspections and things like that. And all of that information is gathered from the various interested bidders and submitted back to the Board of Education. We also try to get as much information out to the public as possible, either by Facebook or Twitter. We work with local real estate companies. We get, in our experience, the broader you get the information out to the community, the more interest you're going to get. And so that's the process initially. And then once bids are received, all that information is compiled, and then we bring it back to the Board of Education to look at a various property, the various interested bidders, what they're proposing to do with the property, background, et cetera. And it's only at that point, if the board says they're interested, then we move forward with a purchase agreement. We do have a draft of a purchase agreement that we generally provide to proposed bidders. There's things such as environmental issues that we disclaim liability, and what we do is, our recommendation is that when a district sells property, you sell it as is, and you transfer all liability to the buyer. Oftentimes, transferring liability is as valuable as the purchase price. When you sell a property, you don't want to have to revisit issues, and so it's an as-is situation, and then we move it forward. If the board approves a purchase agreement, then it really becomes self-executing, where the buyer does due diligence. If they're satisfied, then a property transaction occurs. But again, everything comes back to the board for review before any action is taken.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any more questions? Well, I thank you for your, I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Mr. Delmar.
Comment, I think, but
Okay.
I think it's important as we're moving forward that we don't want to put ourselves in a position of selling one of our buildings and then a month, whatever, a year later, find out, wow, that building, we could have used it because the demographics have changed, where there might be a large student population there. And that might be a better location for a school. We may actually want to sell a school that's actually functioning right now, you know? But, so I think we need a comprehensive plan. It's been brought up tonight. Yeah, and so I think that's very important.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Excellent.
Any more questions? Thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
At this time, I will call the Human Resource Committee of the Whole to order. Okay. I call Board Member Del Moron.
On Human Resources, I would like to call the Human Resources Committee of the whole meeting to order. I will now call on Superintendent Mr. Jones.
I am standing in place of Interim Director Georgina Rubin. And I'm going to get started. I seek a motion and a second to move action item 1.14, personnel recommendations to the regular board meeting on January 19th, 2022 for your approval.
So moved.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
So
Laura.
with all of these subcommittee meetings, I was told and it was understood that we haven't had subcommittee meetings for a couple of months. For December because of the holidays, and January because we just don't have subcommittee meetings in January for some reason. So I'm concerned that these personnel recommendations are coming before the committee of a whole without having gone to the subcommittee first. And I would respectfully like to suggest that these potentially be tabled until they can go before the subcommittee. I would really like us moving forward as a new board to actually follow the bylaws, have our subcommittee meetings, have these discussions where they're supposed to be, and then bring them before the board like they're supposed to be. I'll be making this recommendation for the governance and finance committees as well. So unless anyone has any information, I believe we haven't had discussion in a subcommittee meeting, so I would request that we table these.
I have a couple of concerns with that. I see effective date for Health Service Coordinator is January 20th. So they haven't started yet, correct?
Correct. This is Eileen Tomasi, which was the one that retired, and seeing the need that we have, is willing to come back temporarily until we can find someone. So we currently do not have anyone heading our COVID-19 protocols except for myself and some of the nurses, but she's willing to come back.
Okay.
And then the teachers.
That's my next question, because we can't, I mean, I don't think we can afford.
I'll just say, we don't, the pool for teachers is slim. We don't want to lose the opportunity to have those teachers with us.
So my question is.
Some of them have already started.
Okay, that's my question. So if we were to table it like Laura requested, how would that affect?
I mean, they're
them?
already working.
Okay.
So it would just, be that if the board decides to table it, we'll go through that motion, and they're still working unless the board decides that we don't want these folks to start. Continue work.
Go ahead, Laura.
Go ahead, Laura.
So my point was, and again, I think that these are timely decisions that need to be made, and I'm not necessarily adverse to bringing them before the board and adopting them, but I am protesting in increasingly stronger terms the fact that we are not following the bylaws, that we are going on business as it used to be. And I'm not saying anyone in particular here, but I'm willing to approve these recommendations for employment, but I would like to, for the record, say that I am opposed to, in principle, constantly having these things brought for us without any notice, without any information, and without having the proper subcommittee meetings first, like we're supposed to do. So I'm of the mind to go ahead and say, fine, but with the caveat that we stop doing this. Like, I'm getting frustrated.
Thank you so much,
Board
Dr.
member,
Joyce.
Dr. Joyce.
I appreciate what you're saying, Mrs. McIntyre, but we have been talking about teachers way before this, and these teachers are already on staff. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury because they're already working. And I can tell you with Ms. Tomasi, because I'm a public health navigator working with the Genesee Health community and trying to get our kids vaccinated. We need her there because when she left, it's kind of hindered our getting the vaccination in through the kids and getting that information out. And so I hear what you're saying, but at this particular time, this item here, I think we should support it because we do not have time to delay. And with Ms. Tomasi out, it does create a problem for the health department and everyone else. And these teachers are already working, and they deserve to get paid and get the proper respect.
Thank you so much. Pastor Gilbert.
Board member Gilbert.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson Del Maroney. And
Oh,
to-
I'm sorry.
And to Madam Chair,
I'm writing
is
it
that Superintendent Jones, is there, so this individual had left, Miss, was it Tomasi?
She had retired.
She had
under
retired,
the
yes.
previous administration. She had retired. And she has decided that she is willing to come back and support temporarily as we are in need of a person to take on this duty. However, she called us, and we're definitely thankful for that call. So she called us and said she's willing to come back and support.
Now, during the time of the job fair, was that, this job was not available at that time, right?
Yes, it was.
It was, but it was no one that applied for the
No,
job?
we've had applicants, but not from the job fair, but we've had applicants, and the applicant that we wanted, this went back to her job, and they offered her more money to stay.
I see. And then, I won't go quite as far as Sister McIntyre, but I do understand the light she's trying to get to, is that past practice is okay. And the way the board or the administration done things on certain things. But is it somewhere written? Is it somewhere that we don't have these meetings, or we don't have these committees, or is this just something that happens during the time of what I call Merry Christmas season?
The administration doesn't have the power to determine to cancel a committee meeting for the board.
Okay.
And I'm aware of what Board Member McIntyre is saying, and I too am one of those that would say, oh, is this what we're doing? Oh, okay, why are we doing that? So I understand that, and I think we should make sure moving forward that we follow that. But I think it's just been past practice, and a lot of things have been past practice in this district that is changing. And this board has made sure that it's changing. So I think that's just one of them, that looking forward, we need to move forward and have those meetings.
Yes.
And do what Board Member McIntyre has stated.
That was the response I was looking for. I appreciate it,
Yep.
Superintendent Jones. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Thank you too, Sister McIntyre.
Board member Walker and then McIntosh.
Yep, I I agree with everyone else again, that given the severity of what we're dealing with COVID and then the shortage with teachers, that we just can't afford to table this right now. However, I do agree with Trustee McIntyre and Pastor Gilbert, what they've shared. I think it comes down to planning. I think it's during the governance conversation. So since the beginning of time, Christmas has always been the same. You know, that holiday piece has always been the same, right? No matter what. And it's not just Christmas. Like, when we look at our subcommittee schedules, we know, again, first Monday, second Monday, third Monday, fourth Monday, that always happens, right? So it just comes down to planning and looking at where holidays may come in and how that may be impacted and where we may need to readjust our schedules, right? So just saying that we need to look at that as we're planning out the year to say, okay, again, HR subcommittee meets the fourth Monday? That's going to happen during the Christmas holiday. Let's move that up in December so we don't run into this issue again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Board member, I'll wait.
Board Member McIntosh, are you done?
Yes, sir.
I just was kind of going to piggyback off of what Superintendent Jones said. It is the responsibility of the board chair to make sure that meeting happens. It is not the responsibility of the administration. So if you're not having subcommittee meetings, it's because the chair of that subcommittee has not set that meeting up and made it happen. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you.
And I would just add that upon our board's, executive board secretary's return, I think it's important that we bring that information up front to her, and I will have that conversation. We're changing what's been, and we want to make sure, unless a board member decides to cancel and do not have a quorum, we have those meetings, if that's the pleasure of the board.
I like that.
And you can have those meetings with 2 members of that, because it's not a full board meeting, it's 3 or less.
Yep.
So if you have 2 people, then that meeting can take place. So again, if it doesn't take place, it's because we as a board are not executing. Thank you.
Yeah, and can I say something? Sorry.
Sure.
I'm glad you said it, Mr. Jones. The administration does not have the power to cancel those meetings, because I know when we did our meetings, he always would reach out and, make sure that I was okay with whatever, and I had to yay it or nay it. So we need to do what we need to do as a board and make sure those meetings happen. So moving forward, and I just want to thank Treasurer Tyre, for understanding that we do need to move forward with this, approving this, but going forward, we need to concentrate on making sure we have these subcommittee meetings. Absolutely.
Does anyone else have any other comments? And then I'll comment. Okay, so I'm the chairperson of that committee. We met in November. Pastor Gilbert and myself were there as members of the board.
And Ms. Rubin.
We recognized that, school would not be in session for our next meeting, so we moved it up.
That's what we did.
And then we were told, well, we don't meet in December because, well, we just don't do that. And as chairperson, I don't have a key to the building. We need access to the building to have a meeting. I'm more than willing to have a meeting without the liaison from the administration.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll take our own notes and provide them. But I cannot stress, and I think I've been stressing from about day 1 or 2, that our committees need to meet, because that's where, otherwise we're basically having a committee meeting during a board meeting or a COW meeting. So I don't know what it'll take to change it. If you want to give me a key, I'll take a key, and we'll make sure we have a meeting. But not to have a meeting in December, and then not to have a meeting because we haven't picked anything yet, I mean, that's 2 of the 12 months, and I'm not going to support this. Let me ask some questions, Superintendent. These wages here, the salary for the teachers, are they substitute teachers?
Yes, they're guest teachers.
Okay, so are they in the building every day teaching, or
Yes.
as needed?
Yes, they're in the building.
Every day. So going to the Tomasi, job or appointment, when did we know that she was going to retire?
She has already retired.
Right. When did we know, though, that she was going to retire?
I want to say it was back in October.
October. And when did we start searching for someone?
Right after that. Actually, she helped us put that together.
Okay.
Yep.
It's good to hear that it was part of the job fair, part of the job fair openings. When did she return after retirement?
She hasn't returned yet.
It says on here, her start date is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, January 20th.
Yeah.
January 20th, okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm not in support of it because simply it did not come before our committee, and our committee was not allowed to meet. Again, I can't stress the importance of the committee's meeting, because what the committees can do, they can vet some of these questions. We'll have an idea of what's going on. Not that we'd be voting there, but we could come back with just a personal recommendation of what we heard to enlighten the board. Because I just feel like if the committees aren't functioning, we're not functioning as a board. And I'll go to Board Member McIntosh.
So what I'm hearing is the board was willing to meet, but administrator decided they weren't going to show up.
Exactly.
So that's a form of insubordination, and it holds up the work of the district. And then we're stuck making blind decisions. As far as the teachers, we don't have very many teachers in demand. My disappointment comes because we requested to constantly have a job fair until these positions were filled. I don't hear an aggressive job fair campaign going on, and I would think that that would fall on our HR person, but for whatever reason, we act like we don't have these vacancies. When will we get serious about filling these positions? And it's going to always be like this if we're not going to have a job fair to be aggressively looking for employees. We have a shortage, and so does other districts. And if they're having job fairs and if they're aggressive about filling their positions, then we're left with leftovers and operating on an if, hope, and a maybe. Why can't our HR person put an aggressive job fair where we have it maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, and constantly keep turning in resumes, because we have these same positions that have been vacant, but yet we have somebody collecting a check. They cannot promote. We have vacancies and we need people. And this should be an ongoing process until we start filling these positions. So we're paying somebody 6 figures who is not being aggressive about what this board is requesting. That's it.
Board Member Dr. Joyce.
Thank you, everybody. Keep in mind, Ms. Tomasi position has a lot. I mean, I'm out there in the field. We don't have any nurses out to even to administer vaccine. And the little nurses that we do have, the hospital are using. And then the nurses leave the hospital and come and work with us out in the field trying to get these kids vaccinated. Ms. Tomasi plays a very important role in getting these vaccines and getting these children vaccinated. Right now, we are operating 3 clinics, Nazarene, Lady Guapalapi, and Shallow. And right there, we're running about 200 walk-in, 90 to 200 walk-in. Now the kids are coming in. Ms. Tomasi plays a very good role with working with the nurses. We're in the middle of a COVID pandemic, we need her back, because since she stopped, we can't get into the school without nurses like we want to get into and get these kids vaccinated. When we're looking at $145 a day, I work as a sub-teacher, a guest teacher. We don't have any. You can run all the ads we want to, which we should be doing, but right now we're trying to promote, like get other, go out in other cities and other states and looking at Phoenix, who, are states that we would never take their certification, but we look at ways, working with the government. How can we get teachers back? Keeping in mind, during the COVID, we lost a lot of teachers, a lot of them retired. And so now we're in a dilemma. If we can get $145 a day, that's still kind of low, asking a teacher to come in here during the midst of a pandemic. And these are your teachers that are probably going to be with us throughout the year. And we only giving them $145 a day, which is really kind of low to ask them to come in the midst of a pandemic. We don't have Ms. Tomasi replacement, and so we need that medical team there. I know what you're saying, what we have had happen, but moving forward, I suggest that we go ahead and pass it, but moving forward, we're not going to be tolerating this because we all know we need teachers. And like Ms. Karen McIntosh said, we got to get aggressive with getting teachers, and I've been looking at what they've been trying to do with the government, but it is so hard to, especially come to this district, to get educators. But even with your guest teacher, I think you'll do better if you kind of up that pay a little bit, but that's just me, one person.
Pastor Gilbert.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Del Maroney. I don't know, but maybe I shouldn't say this as part of the record, but I'm going to, is that I hope that there's not a no hire list for certain people that's applying for jobs. Now, that's just me. That's what I feel.
Keep hope alive.
So, because this is, number one, it's against federal law, first of all. And then number two, the board and the district will be held responsible. So we need to be on the right foot here, and we need some pressure where it needs to be, so we can get there. And I know Superintendent Jones, that what you're saying, I have confidence in that. Let me say that to you. But at the same time, there's got to be a push. And I hear Dr. McNeil, what she's saying, when she said that no one is able to, to initiate these shots for our children. That solely rests on this board. And I got a 4-year-old granddaughter. Well, I got a 10-month-old granddaughter in Dallas, Texas. And, you know, it's some heavy lifting here, but we've got to get there. We can't just keep kicking it down the road or pushing it to the side. And that's what I hear from all of us on this board, is that whatever we need to do, whatever we've got to do, if we got to do something along with the vote and getting it sanctioned under the charter of the school board, then we'll do that. And we must do that, but then we have to have it initiated. It has to go forward. It has to get some traction. It can't keep spinning. It sounds like it's been too much spinning here. That's just my take. And so I hope you understand where I'm coming from here. Thank you.
Board Member McIntyre.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, we have been consistently asking for certain things from the HR department.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
They've been consistently spinning, as you've said, and in at least one case, there was an act of insubordination where what we requested was refused. So I am disheartened to hear that the position for the health services coordinator was offered. Was actually, we had somebody, we made an offer, and they decided to remain in their position because of a higher offer. That's what you have an HR department for, is to do these labor negotiations. If we had a qualified candidate, we made an offer, why couldn't we counter it? I mean, I'm not trying to micromanage the HR department, but what I'm saying is that this is a time of crisis where we need these positions filled, and I just find the actions of the HR department consistently, time and time again, lacking. And it's been a year now, and this is a new board, a new day. I just want to put it out there that we really need the people who are in the positions that they're in to actually do the work that's part of their contract. And if they do not, then we need to follow through with that. And I know that that's something that's been worked on, but I think the first step is, this is why we have subcommittees, because these are where the discussions happen, so that we don't have to take up time and go to like 10 or 11 or 12 at night. See, this is a subcommittee meeting. And I agree with, another point is I agree with Dr. Joyce that $145 for a substitute teacher? In the midst of, you can go work at Target and get a better wage, like pushing a cash register, come on. So this is where we need to put our money where our mouth is. And, this is embarrassing. This is horrible. So that's what I wanted to say, but we need to follow through with, we need a continuous job fair. We've asked for it. It's not something that had a begin and an end date. Former President McIntosh was very clear on that it was ongoing and a constant push. And I feel like if it's not being, if there's not insubordination, then it's being ignored, then it's incompetence. So which one is it? Is it insubordination or is it incompetence? And that's where I'm at. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else have comments?
I would like to, there's so much there.
Yeah.
And there's so much there I agree with. I would like to say that for the last year and some months, the person that is in this position is doing two positions. I am saying that to say that we have an interim director of HR and the manager of HR, and it's one person. Those are two jobs, and there is a lot of work here. There's been a change of administration. There was rules then that is changing now. I just want us to remember what we've been through, and when we talk about there's been some insubordination that a board president knows what has happened with, I'm sorry, not this board president, but our previous board president. We have worked together and we have done some things. I don't want to mention that openly.
No.
And we've also been working with our council, the board council, Ms. Sharice, as it pertains to hers assisting with our HR department. There is gaps, there is holes, and we're going to work together. And I'm going to work with the Human Resource Committee to ensure that we can resolve that. So the frustrations that are there are not just frustrations that are with board members. Even the department has some frustrations. And so that is an area. We have interviewed several candidates for director of HR, and those candidates just do not have the qualifications that would meet the requirements to take that position in that department where it needs to go. The ongoing job fairs, noted, and that will not be a problem moving forward. Just wanted to make sure that I spoke about what's going on in that department currently.
Point of information. I forgot to mention this with Pastor Gilbert. He mentioned the no hire list. Are we ensuring that they're that no hire list has been eliminated?
Absolutely.
I'm making that assumption, but I'm just putting it out there.
There was a conversation. There was a conversation that we had with our previous board president and also council. And that was a part of the conversation that I could, I don't want to mention someone's personal business, that we took care of in the last year, in 2020, recently. And that happened in November, and we handled that situation, and that is on record. And so that no hire list that you speak of, we took care of that at that time. So what you mentioned today has already been handled months ago.
Board Member McIntosh.
I just want to state I have received emails from more than one candidate that is on that do not hire list. To my understanding, one of the ladies did interview, had worked in this district for 12 years, did not have anything derogatory in her file, worked some weeks and did not get paid, has a trail of emails, but yet was not given a job. And this position has been open for over 2 years. So for this district to be hurting for people and have people with experience that has been formerly on the do not hire list that can still not get a job in this district, even though the job is available, I'm just not very confident in that department. I just, because you might not have a do not hire list, but you've remembered my name and you've decided no matter how much this district is suffering, even though we may be even looking at a lawsuit, this lady is talking about suing us, still cannot get a job in this district. So I just want to say that for the record, and I don't want to rag on our administration because Mr. Jones is doing the best he can and he has addressed this, but we need to understand these people that do this, they've been doing this for years, and this is how they roll. And just personally, in my opinion, from speaking to council and getting these emails, they have no intentions on doing any better. I am so exhausted from just trying to beg these folks to do their job. So with that being said, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, and I don't want to put us in a vulnerable position, but this is part of the reason why we don't have people. Let's just face it.
Do any other board members have anything else to say? I would just like to add in that, I'm looking at these effective dates, and so they have started before this was presented to us. And I'm not sure who would enter into a contract, number one, knowing they may not get paid, or number two, would pay someone without a contract. Now, we've talked about possibly building new school buildings. I can almost guarantee you, no contractor will begin building a school for us without a contract. It's not gonna happen. So if this stuff, if these positions need to come to us for approval before a contract can be, let me say, started or fulfilled, how is it that anyone can begin to pay someone without an approved contract? Now, I understand and recognize the need to hire teachers. I understand I don't believe they're getting paid enough, as it's been expressed today, this evening. But somewhere, something has fallen apart.
That's right.
And I think it's been something that's been going on for,
Long time.
well, I don't want to just say years, but maybe decades. So, I'm not here to point fingers, because those people are no longer here.
That's right, they're not here.
But, we need to look at what we're doing as a district, in my opinion. And because, if these substitute teachers don't realize that they're subject to a contract and they're just coming into work and the board says, no, we're not paying. That opens us up to a lawsuit. But that being said, Board Member Dr. Joyce.
When you look at your guest teachers, or we call them substitute teachers, they usually through EduStaff. And EduStaff is where we come in and we go out there and we say, we're gonna work here. What the school board decided to do is that they're gonna take these third-party contract teachers and they're gonna keep them on this side, on their side. So these teachers here don't go anywhere else. They work directly for the school board. Normally, when they pull a permanent, a long-time contract, they done upped it up about $20 more. But, and they getting paid, edge staff is paying them, we pay edge staff to pay them. What they're saying is that they're gonna give these people 1, 2, 3, 4 employees to stay in this build sub, what we call them, building subs or something like that. They're gonna get them $145 a day to work in that building. And then they have assigned it them where they're gonna be at. So it's not like they have a separate contract, if you kind of understand that. They're going to get paid through this third party. They are permanent. We can't have sub, because guess what? Another sub can go out there and they paying way more than this, because subs is in big demand. Now this is about as low as you can go. But if they can go out there on that same system and find another district, say, I'm gonna pay you $175, because now it's a big demand. And so what we're saying is we're whining about 145. I'm just kind of insulted for 145 because I work there in those districts. I can go to any place and they pay me close to $200 a day just right down the highway. And to be in a B-Day buildings person for a whole year. That sub does everything. She's just not a sub. We put such a load on that sub. She's gonna do the same function as that teacher. She's just gonna be supervised, kind of governed by a certified teacher. So we're talking about something that already exists. We need all of this service. It's more to this than what we see. And really, it's almost pathetic and shame that we give them, and Mr. Jones knows how I feel about these pay when it comes to guest teacher, because I work there. And unless you sit in that classroom and you don't want to change teachers right about now, kids are missed in a COVID, changing teachers from Zoom to this. We're asking the kids to do too much. And right now, we need these teachers to stay where they at so these kids can settle down, participate, and get themselves together. And we can talk about these things later. I would love to have another conversation about this pay. We're in the midst of a pandemic, but everything is set forth. And we definitely got to have Ms. Tomasi. That's a given. We have to have her, because even the outside nurses, we can't get anything done. Because in the school, that job is a hard job to fulfill. Somebody else can pay Ms. Tomasi what we're looking at here. Somebody else can pay her $200 more. It's a big demand. I thank God that she come back and want to serve Flint for that. I have met about 7 to 8 LPN who has retired and coming back to the city, working, trying to get our community vaccinated. So we've been spent a lot of time on this, and either we're gonna pass it or we're not. I just ask you guys support, because I know what the teachers are going through, and we need Ms. Tomasi.
Ask the question.
Call
Ask
for
the
the
question.
And sit all night on this.
Well, the question has been called for. I think we move on without a second or anything.
Right.
So we'll do roll call and,
Restate the motion.
so the motion is to approve, I'm sorry here, the motion is to approve the
Personnel
Can I-
recommendations.
the personnel recommendations. And we'll do roll call. I'll start with Board Member Green,
Yes.
Board Member McIntosh,
Yes.
Board Member
Yes.
Dr.
McNeil. Yes, for me.
Board Member Laura,
Yes.
Board Member, myself, Board Member Chris Del Moroni, no. Board Member Pastor Gilbert,
Yes.
Board Member Walker,
Yes.
and the vote is, who am I missing here?
6 years.
6 to 1.
That's it.
That was
Did I
it.
get everybody? Okay. The motion passes 6 yes and 1 no. Okay, thank you, Superintendent Jones. Seeing no further action, I declare the Human Resources Committee of the whole meeting adjourned, and I'll turn the floor back over to Board President for the rest of the agenda.
At this time, I would like to call the Governance Committee of the whole to order. I will now call Superintendent Jones to present items to the board.
I seek a motion and a second to move action item 5.2, authorization to partner with Insight Education Group, to the regular board meeting on January 19th, 2022 for approval.
So moved.
Support.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
And this is for the proposal piece?
5.2. Page 4 is where it starts.
I had a couple of questions.
Mr. Walker?
So I was looking at the proposal and looking at, one of the first things that I was trying to understand was like their timeline, and looking at page 12 into 13, it's just kind of tough to understand like how things align. So that's just one of the things that I was looking at. Another thing, like I looked at I believe it's a $55,000 price tag, and if I'm not mistaken, this is in regards to the synthesizing through the community data, but also facilitation of the community advisory group. Now, is this price tag, $55,000, going to carry us through the duration of the ESSER funds, which expire in 2024? Would this be up for renewal next year?
So let me start with your first question. So the timeline is to try to get the information that we have taken from all of those meetings, get it synthesized and analyzed and brought into a report that I can bring back to the board, but also use with the advisory committee that we have set up. The reason why we brought this forward is because our staff would have to be taken off their work, which would cause this a little longer and back us up with the work that we need to do moving forward. And so to try to get all of this work done and synthesized in the next couple of weeks to get moving and bring this back is the reason why we brought them. We want to do this work with Insight. That's number one. Number two, the hope is to continue the partnership throughout the duration and keep this moving forward so that we don't have to pause as it pertains to getting information out to our public, going back to our community meetings, as the board has stated. Mr. Jones, keep those meetings going at some form and fashion. But if we are sticking our heads into this work on a repeated basis, it's going to slow us down from the work that we need to accomplish and getting Doyle Ryder back into their building and getting things done with the advisory committee, because there are dates we're trying to meet with the work we're doing currently with our ESSER funds.
One last question. I see they're based out of California, so given that community piece, what's the boots on the ground look like from their side of things?
So right now, if we were to move forward, we would be taking the documentation that we have and sending by way of electronic pictures and the information we have with the Google. We'll just ship that out to them so they can get it electronically, but we'll be taking pictures and giving them all the information that we have, and they will be coming into our meetings as it pertains, getting on Zoom and being present to ensure that they are supporting the district in the work that we're doing.
Hi, Mr. Jones, there's several things that I do have concern about.
Yes, ma'am.
About this data collection, because I'm not a big fan of data when we don't have a procedure, how we're gonna collect this data, who is paying for this data collection, does this data get compromised? So if you have one of your partners paying for, to analyze our data, there'll be a concern would that data be compromised. Number two, the most important is all this, the Hispanic community has not had any input and had a voice in what we're trying to say. Nobody went to the Hispanic community to let you know. So my understanding that we should go over there, and they're willing to let you use their
center to have this conversation. So we're going to analyze data, and the community is spending a lot of time on this. My understanding that we need to go back over to Hasselbrain. Some of the people did not get an input. Some people did not quite understand what we're trying to do. So you're saying that we have a 2-week deadline to get this done, and I would just like to know a little bit more about this company. And I hear that they're great and all of that, but we have a lot of great companies out here doing this type of work. So if you're going to have your partners pay to analyze our data, then we need to have a conversation here. And then the board is still trying to understand what is the role of this advisory committee. We understand that we have a partner advisory committee, and then do we have a community advisory committee? So that's something that we need to kind of ask, who's advising? What are they advising? What are they trying to say? You see, I go back to my partners, and they're going to advise us on what? Because my understanding, some of the board members, that we will be using community as part of the advisor team, not just partner. Am I kind of making myself a little clear, or is it confusing?
No, what you're saying is right, but I would say that that's what we're doing, is we are using the community, and we are using community partners as well. But the 2-week turnaround is what I'm saying. What I meant to say, and be clear on, is we're not done with any of our community forums work, but we need to take what we already have and get busy with it. So it's going to take, we don't want to wait till we're done with all of our community forums and student forums and staff forums. We at least want to get started and get moving so that we can try to meet some deadlines with renovations. And we're going to continue to, this is an ongoing work, so it's not something that is just going to snap and be done. It's just going to be ongoing.
And okay, the reason I said about the Hispanic community, because it has nothing to do with you, it wasn't the superintendent. When they came to her and questioned, why you guys are not coming to us? Well, we just don't go over there. That's just the way it is. And so here we are having these community forums, and we still neglect a vital part of our community. They want to have an input, but the previous administration, from what they told me when I went over there, that we just don't do it. We just don't. You can't just say that and then try to analyze data and put together something for the community and not include the culture that Flint is included. It's more than just African American, poor blacks, and all of that. That Hispanic community need to have their voice in our data analysis, and we have not done that. And I just think we need to make that a top, because this has been going on too long. Even in the school, their needs are not met. Through the water crisis, their needs are not met. Here we are, at the same time, looking at this company. I'd just like to know a little bit more. I hadn't had time to read on them. I did a little research on it. But it just, and you're saying that you need this done within 2 weeks?
What I'm saying, Board Member McNeil, is that we're trying to keep things moving, and we do have some deadlines with renovations and getting some things done. And so having the community input that we have already obtained, we want to get started with it. And the community is already asking Mr. Jones what's going on with some of the community conversations we've already had. So this is, the more we wait to start with this ESSER funding and using the funds to renovate, the harder it's going to be on the back end for us to get in line with lumber and to get things done. The only thing that I'm trying to do is kind of move us swiftly, and I've taken the time to search and try to find the best folks to support us. But if we continue to slow, it's going to be hard for us to build and get Doyle Ryder back into their school by August and get some other things done in our district, because it's hard to get the lumber and the construction. So we need to get in line. And so trying to take all of this data and get going, but not forgetting what you're saying with the other communities. That's what I've been speaking about in the community forums is in the month of January, in the month of February, we want to go to Hasselbring, we want to get to our scholars, and we want to get to our staff. It's going to just be an ongoing work.
So did you select this company? You did an investigation and research on it, or somebody just brought it to you?
No, I did. I did the research on it, and at first what happened, Ms. McNeil, was I was trying to figure out who in the district is going to help me get this data to you all in a timely fashion so we can continue moving. And at that point is when I said, you know what, I need to start searching some of the work that I've done in previous years and try to get some information out there. And then I started looking at how can I fund it without hurting our budget. And the superintendent has a tech support fund that has been there over the last couple of years, and trying to use that tech support fund instead of going into our general budget.
So it's not a grant, okay, all right. All right, that makes a little sense, okay. But you are going to take care of the Hispanic community?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Is there, Chris Demoron.
So, in my opinion, what they will be analyzing here, this company, is far from a random sample. Simply, you know, we're looking at basically, I mean, some of the outreaches were lightly attended, let me say that. This is going to sound like a funny or a ridiculous question, but the purpose of those meetings at the schools was to do what?
To hear from our community and to take this information back to start trying to make good on what our community would like to see in their district.
Okay. So that, what our community would like to see in our district, what they would like to see in their schools, I mean, I was at, I think, all but maybe one of the meetings, is a different question than to ask the community, how would you like us to spend the ESSER funds given these parameters? This is what it can be spent on. So at the end of the day, at the end of this study, it's one thing for the community to say we would like to have golden sinks, and another thing to tell them up front, you cannot have golden sinks in the bathrooms because it's not allowed under ESSER. So I'm not sure where we end up at or where we're going to end up at. Is it what you want in the buildings, or is it what you want based on what's allowed? And the allowed part, I don't think was expressed to them because I don't know that we all know what is allowed under the ESSER funds.
We know what's allowed under the ESSER funds. It's in the documentation. Now, our community, in those forums, we didn't go through the steps to say, here's what you can do and here's what you can't.
Right.
I really didn't want to put our community in a situation to have to, okay, well, can we do this or can we do that? We just want to hear from them. And if we can make their wildest dreams come true, then that's what we do. I think that what you're asking is tell the community, here's what you can't do, so now what do you want to do? Well, I think that kind of stopped them from just giving us what their hearts are, and what they want to see in our district. So, but I do understand where you're coming from, and we can possibly put more information out about the ESSER on the website, but there was a reason why we didn't go deeper into saying you can't spend it on this. We didn't want our scholars, we didn't want our families to have to go that deep into their thinking. Just tell us what you would like to see. That's what the community forums were about.
Pierce was one of the 10 schools. Do we have a makeup date yet for Pierce?
So we just canceled Pierce because we pivoted. I am in contact with the principal to determine, we have a conversation tomorrow with the health community to determine if we're returning, and when the best time would be to return. That community forum was going to be face-to-face. We didn't want to do face-to-face if we're not in school. So that's why we have postponed it, and that's what we put out to the public. And we will let them know once we return face-to-face.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Board Member McIntyre. Laura, I'm sorry.
So this is something, again, I think that definitely needs to be tabled because it needs to be brought before a subcommittee meeting. Not only does it need to be brought before a subcommittee meeting, but it needs to be brought before the whole board because I'm kind of staggered that this is brought forward in the state, the state that it's in. It's a near completed report, and we're just now seeing it. And so I'm really disheartened and disappointed that once again, I feel like the board's cut out of the loop in terms of information. I don't feel like there's transparency with this process. And in addition to that, so that's one issue. I don't feel that there's been enough transparency, and I would just really like to request from the administration, I know that you're trying, I really know you do, that you're trying your best to be as transparent as possible. What I'm saying is that this is not working, because I'm just now seeing this, I'm just now hearing about this. Reading through here, what I see is we've got a flow chart here that doesn't even include the school board in the beginning stages, and it's only at the end when we're going to have a report that's reported to us or at us. So I would really like to have more notice about these different stages, like that are happening. So the fact that insight is even being considered, the fact that we're even considering data analysis of a certain type. In my mind, when we were doing community forums, the school board, the board tasked you with having the community forums, not to have a third-party outside agency from California be paid $55,000 to consolidate community responses to be presented back to us. As someone who has worked in data analysis and who is a qualitative researcher, I'm kind of a little critical of this data process right here. I'm not quite sure. I hear what you're saying its purpose is. I'm not quite sure it's going to be fruitful or useful. I understand the uses and abuses of data all too well. I don't understand why we need to pay so much for so little when we're very intelligent people, and to hear qualitative responses coming back from the community, it doesn't need to be synthesized for $55,000 in Encino, California. That's my opinion. And I think Trustee Walker's point is an excellent one. How long is this going on? Are we paying them $55,000 for 2 weeks of work?
Would you like them to answer that question?
No, I'm just, I feel like we need to have a strategic plan. It needs to start with the board. The board needs to come together with the administration, side by side, and come up with a game plan. This looks like we're putting the cart before the horse. We're just doing business as usual. We're getting a tech advisory grant to produce data that's going to be almost meaningless. It'll sure look good. Boy, the report's going to be shiny and we're going to have nice colors and I'm sure it's going to have a cover on it it's going to be collated and it's going to be beautiful. But it's not going to do anything for the Flint community schools. This is not what we need, in my opinion. We also don't need a California company who will report regularly and provide updates to the Mott Foundation. This is what it says in their proposal here. Flint District Leadership, the Collective Impact Advisory Committee, and any other identified stakeholders. This is the Board of Education. It rests and resides with us. We are directing this district, not the Mott Foundation, not the stakeholders. Yes, they are partners, but as I've stated over and over and over again, they can be partners, not colonial overseers. And this is just another example of overseeing our district. And I'm tired of it, and I want it to stop. This needs to be discussed in subcommittee in length. I'm, like I said, very disappointed that it's come before the board to be voted on without it coming before the subcommittee meeting, without any inkling that this has even been happening. I'm disappointed with the Collective Impact Advisory Committee. I know I've expressed that to you before. I'm disappointed with how it's represented, or in the lack of representation of real community members. It's the same old stakeholders, the same old voices, the same old people that are at the table, the same table that has put us in this position that we're in 2022. That the reason why our district is failing, the reason why our district is on the verge of privatization and financial collapse, these are the stakeholders that put us there. And I am tired of it, and I'm not going to let it happen. Not on my watch. So this data analysis, no. We need to actually do some real work. We need to listen to the students. We need to listen to the teachers. We need to listen to the parents. And we need to have it provided to us in a meaningful way, not in some $55,000 shiny report that's, I'm just really frustrated. And I would humbly like to suggest that we table this and have a discussion. And then I can really get a chance to look at this, maybe do some more research, maybe we can have an offline discussion so I can get some more background. But to just have it come before the board like this is I don't want to do things like we've always done them. I don't want to do it business as usual, and this to me is business as usual.
Is there any more discussion? Mr. Jones has something to say.
Yes. So that was a lot. I want to say that what you see in this design model, it did not come from this company. This design model that's here, that has the board last, is the same model that we've been speaking of as it pertains to listening from our community and moving there to make recommendations for the board. The only reason that this model is on this document is for to show that they are supporting what we have asked. They have nothing to do with what's present on this model. This model has been in every one of our community meetings. And secondly, it is definitely my job to report back to you. But board members, if I don't have the support and the help I need to get this stuff done, then I will have nothing to report back, and it will take me a longer time to get things done if I have to take my team to do this work. If you're okay with that, just understand that the long-term goal is to make sure Doyle Ryder gets back in to their school. I totally hear you. I will adhere to what you're saying, but understand this is support to the administration so that we can get the work done. This really has nothing to do with anyone else or any other partner, but the way I tried to pay for it puts other partners involved. And that funding, if we don't want to use that partner to pay for it, then we can find another partner or do it ourselves through ESSER funding, and some of the wording here will change. But my goal was to try to start moving things and to get things done so I can get the report back to, from what I've heard from the community, and keep that moving. That was the purpose, and that was the goal. It is not to try to just bring someone in or to circumvent any work. It's just to try to move things and get some things done in our district. That was the purpose.
So a couple, 2 or 3 things. What does Doyle Ryder have to do in getting the students back into Doyle Ryder? I recognize it as it being important, but what does that have to do with this analysis?
So some of what our community members and staff has been talking about is in that information, and is being, we wanted to bring that information along to determine what exactly is being done at Doyle Ryder. So it has a lot to do with the money that we're spending with ESSER that's going to help pay for Doyle Ryder. So we didn't want to move and just start doing things without making sure that this information was in front of us. That's
Maybe I got confused somewhere. I don't mean to cut you off, but Doyle Ryder had a roof issue and mold.
Correct.
So we abate that problem, we put on a new roof, and...
Oh, you're asking me what's going on with Doyle Ryder, what we're trying to do there?
No, I think I know what's going on, is it had a mold problem, a roof problem, so we fixed that, and then they should be back in. We don't have to wait, the students don't have to wait for this report to get back into Doyle Ryder.
Well, Doyle Ryder was supposed to have the board voted for Doyle Ryder to have other renovations before the scholars started back into the building.
Okay.
That has to do.
Before me.
Yes, sir. It might have been. I'm not sure if it was before you or not.
Okay.
But Doyle Ryder was supposed to get more in renovations before the students returned, not just get the roof done. And that's what we have put out to the public and to the school community.
Okay. And the funding for this, again, is coming from where?
I chose to try to use the tech fund that was paused with the other things that was paused in the summer. I chose to try, so I reached out to use that instead of trying to use funds from our general fund.
Okay.
That's the reason why I did that.
So why is this proposal being presented to the Mott Foundation?
It's not. It's being presented.
It says proposal, Flint Community Schools District Data Analysis and Report, presented to Thomas Parker, Executive in Residence and Program Officer Charles Stewart, Mott Foundation.
Because when I called to get the funds, they agreed. So I needed to come and bring it before the board to be able to do that because it goes through our procurement. But they agreed to do it so the company knows that this is being paid out of the Mott Foundation. That this is simple, simply me saying, hey, Mr. Parker, is it possible for me to use those funds and open up that funding source again so that we can get this paid instead of using our general funds? And it was told to me, yes, we can. So they had to have a part in getting this because they're the ones that's going to be paying for it.
Okay, all right. Got it. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion?
Sorry.
Point of
Mr. Ward.
order, we're in the middle, we're in the middle of like a discussion like to vote, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I can't make a motion to table this?
You can.
I would just like to table this. I don't want to,
Point of information.
yeah.
I just had further comment. Again, doing a due diligence about this, I definitely understand, but the main thing that I'm thinking about as well is, in our community forums, we heard a lot about building new and renovations. Understanding the supply chain as it is right now, we were on the call with MDE. MDE mentioned that although an eligible expense, of course, is renovation and building new, they almost, advised us to go against it because of the backlog of where we are. So I mentioned that to say we definitely need to do due diligence, but at the same time, we have to move, right? These dollars expire in 2024. So I definitely am not against, again, doing a due diligence about whatever proposal comes before us. But we aren't in a position to have to send these dollars back to the federal government because we didn't use them. So that's the main thing that I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. Dr. McNeil?
Mr. Jones, I'm just gonna give a scenario. What if we paid the $55,000 ourselves? And I think this is where this conversation is trying to head to.
We don't need it.
Let me finish.
Point of order, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
sir.
We just need one person at a time to talk,
Yep, I
please,
agree.
if you
I
would.
agree. Let Dr. McNeil finish. Enjoy.
So if this seemed to be an issue for some of the board, that we have a partner that's gonna pay for this, then they want the data to come to them. What it would be like if we took the 55,000 of the ESSA fund and pay for this data ourselves, where we have a little bit more control. I think that's where we're going with that. And how much time do we have to even get this done? Because we do need to have a further conversation on it, and we do need to move on this data. But at the same time, I just think we should have had a discussion. Who's paying for a nominative person to pay you? Bail you out as the person that's gonna own own it all. So what would we look at if we pay it ourselves? And we can move forward. What's your thoughts on that?
If the board wishes for us to pay for it, I'm not against that. My whole goal was just to try to, I need to get this work done so I can look at it, move it, and present something to you that makes sense. When I get this information back, I'm coming to you with the report and presentation, and I wanted to be able to just give you something. It wasn't about looking at the company deeper or anything like that. This is just from the superintendent. This is what I chose to bring forward to you because I believe that what I need to get done, I can get done and get you the information. And so if we don't want to use the tech fund to do it, that's fine, board. I just need, I don't want to take let me just say it, my person in Title I, my secretary, and another secretary off of their assignments that they have to try to take all of this documentation, build it. I won't have an advisory committee meeting until we have data. I won't be able to bring you the information until I have the data. But we are running the district at the same time. And so with all of those things that we're running at the same time, I gotta have some support to get some of these things done in a timely fashion, but accurate.
So what I'm saying is, if the board take a vote that we pay the $55,000 and we pay Insight, and you said something that some of the wording would have to be changed because we can use the ESSA fund to pay this little $55,000, and I think it'll set the public mind free and some of the people mind free, and we're paying it ourselves and don't be obligated. Is that what you're trying to say, Ms.?
Where is it mandated that we actually have to have this analysis?
It's not a mandate, it's me trying to operate the district. It's managing and trying to operate the work that I have to get done. We've done 8 or 9 community forums. Our word is out there. I have community members that's coming on. I heard you all when you said we wanted some of these other community members. I've reached out to them. They're coming on to the committee. We're doing that work, but I have to move it and have something to bring back to everyone that's data in order for me to move forward. I can't continue to take our people that already have a lot to do off of their work to do some of this work I can get someone else to do. That's basically it. That was it for me. It was nothing in between. It was just, I need this synthesized, I need the data, and I need someone to be able to do this while I'm moving other things in the district. That's simply what this is. And so, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That said, would you have a problem if we, the board, decide as a board as a whole to vote that the $55,000 be paid for on this side of the fence and keeping insight and keeping things going as where it's going? Would that be a problem? Would that delay of making that decision?
The only thing I would have to do is check with, I would have to check with Kiana and the team to see what changes will be made, because it's going to be coming out of grant funding, and what I need to do at that point. That's the only thing I would need to check.
Because if we can't get that answer, then we have to go ahead and make a decision.
Why is that the price tag? Why, I mean, why are we?
Wait. Dr. Joyce, do you have any more questions?
That's what I was saying, you know, we need to make a decision. It's on our, if we can take it and pay for it ourselves, the money ourselves. And what would Kiana and them would need to do to make that happen?
So if we move it forward, board member, vice president, that doesn't mean you voted on it and you put it in. If we move it forward to the board meeting, we have a week to find out, you know, what Kiana and the team would say about what I need to do. And if I need to pull it because there's extra work that need to be done, by all means, I'll do that.
And it also give us the time to review it. So I'm done. We can move it forward.
Let me just say this. We as a board are going to have to trust our superintendent. I know, Laura, you said we don't need it. I don't know. You do this. This is your thing, but he's.
But why 55?
Let me finish. Let me finish.
That money?
He's the superintendent. We have to, at some point, trust that he knows what he's doing. I respect everybody's opinion, and I hope it comes across that way. But we have to, at some point, trust our superintendent. And I think this is just one of those times I'm going to trust him. Just like I think I trust you all the time, but this is definitely one of those times I'm going to support him in making a decision what we need for the district. I don't necessarily agree with the Mount Foundation paying for it, because we don't want it to appear like they're more valuable than other partners. I don't agree with that. But I'm trying, I can't, Laura. So as I was saying, I don't agree with the Mount Foundation paying for it, because all partners are valuable. And I don't want it to appear as one is more valuable than the other. But we have to trust our superintendent. I can't say that enough. Is there any more discussion? Pastor Gilbert.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think that one of the things we have to look at this point is, I'm a little frustrated too with timing and not being able to meet, and then because it's Merry Christmas and all of that. But I'm trying to push it out the way. I'm just trying to get it out the way, because I think you said something very important, is that Superintendent Jones, he has more eyes on the stove that should be burning that are not burning.
Absolutely.
And he's trying to control them all. He's cutting some on that should be burning because he cut them on, and when he goes back to get them, he comes to us, they get cut right off.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of cut through the minefield a little bit and see if we can get the things that really support him and the entire district in our city, because then at the same time, it's a little give. We are asking that the superintendent do bring some of these things so we can get a chance to look at them, examine them, critique them, have questions. And because one question or two questions brings on a mirage of other questions.
Yeah, that's true.
And I try to ask thoughtful and insightful questions, because I could say a whole lot, but when I listen to my colleagues, they're really we're all kind of going in the same direction. But at the same time, we don't want to betray our superintendent. That's very dangerous. And that's a spirit of division and betrayal. And we just can't have that. And yet, and I say this about Sister Laura often, is I try to hear the real nucleus of where she's going with it, so we can work on that. And at the same time, we've got to have on the other end from the administration or Superintendent Jones, we've got to come up. We've all got to come up. But we can't just keep turning these eyes off, and when you come back to us, we cut them right off for you. That is not going to work going forward. We can question, ask questions. We have that right. Absolutely. Because he is our employee. But at the same time, as you said, we have to allow him and support him with confidence too. Yeah. And you just have to walk that line some kind of way. I'm not that good at it, but I'm trying. So I understand what you're saying, Superintendent Jones, but we need something from you as well, and then this will cause us to be a little bit more confident in what you are trying to do, and what we believe that your heart is in the right place to do this. So that's where I see this, and I think that's what Dr. McNeil has been saying just about all night long. And so that's the only thing I want to say.
Thank you, Pastor Gilbert. Mr. Walker, I apologize.
No, you're good.
Is there any more discussion? Dr. McNeil.
I just want to get clarity. We can move this forward with an understanding that we look into, what I'm understanding is that we can move this forward with an understanding that we can look into it, that we paying this fee ourselves without the MOD intervention, so we don't hold up no progress and get into the other areas that are concerning the treasurer. And that way, we got enough time, just moving it forward, we have enough time to look at it, redigest and see what's what. And then you can have your staff to look at what it's like for us to pay for this ourselves. And I'd rather pay for it myself because we don't fought too hard. And we want to see what we can do on our own without that support and feeling like we're still being controlled, if that makes sense. I would like to see that happen, and that we move it forward, and we still have time, because all we're doing is moving forward to the next meeting, and we should have some information by email or however. Do you think that's fair? Would that help you?
Yes, ma'am.
So with that being said, that means the change would be, we would get the data. The Mott Foundation is not entitled to that data, like because I would feel like if I paid $55,000, I'm entitled.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So
Correct.
they would take them off of that list of entitlement.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Dr.
Let me say it like this. They would not get this information when I get this information.
Gotcha.
I want to say it like
Other
that,
partners-
because this information is public information that we want all of our public to get.
Exactly.
It's just, I will get it. If we decide to pay for it, I will get it. I will create a presentation based on what I believe that should come before our board. And we will use this data in our ongoing advisory committees as we move forward.
Okay, that sounds good. Chris Delmarone.
Thank you. So what I heard Board Member Dr. Joyce say was different than the motion on the floor. The motion on the floor is to accept the money from the Mott Foundation Technical Assistance Fund, as opposed to, if I understood you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, please, what Dr. Joyce said was to spend our money to move this forward, and the Mott Foundation wouldn't get a copy of it. Here's where I thought we were at one point. Basically, the Mott Foundation would be paying for this. They would get a copy. We're going to get a copy of it. We're not spending any money as a district, and it's moving forward. I don't know why we would want to spend our money, ESSER money, if someone else is willing to pay for this, whether we think it's needed or not. I mean, basically, they're analyzing, I think, what was entered in on the computer from the laptops at the meetings, the
Post-its.
call-in and the post-its. So if, you know, I don't see anything wrong with it now that I understand where the money's coming from, and it's not costing the district any money, unless I'm totally missing something.
Nope. Nope, not. So, is there any more discussion? So, where we are right now is where we need to decide. We pay for it, and it will come out of our general fund? Do we know where it will come from?
The motion on the floor.
Oh, I didn't know it was motion. What, oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
The motion we're in discussion, but the motion on the floor is that we move it as I asked. However, Board Member McNeil made a statement to kind of make an addendum to that. And so I think at this point, either we determine if her addendum is going to be added to this, or do you do it as is? That's where we are.
Gotcha, that's, okay. Mr.
Point of
Walker,
order, Madam Chair.
okay, yes, sir.
Dr. McNeil can be an amended motion, take one motion, vote on that, resolve it or accept it or reject it, so we'll know exactly where we're at, and then amend the motion, then vote on the amendment to what Dr. Joyce is talking about.
Okay.
And,
Okay, thank you.
Because we're clear now. We're clear, everyone's clear.
Okay.
I think Chris really brought us to
Mr. Walker, I'm missing you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say for the record, I'm not for pulling this from general fund, right?
That's right.
If it could be
That's
ESSER
right.
as a last resort,
Right.
but I heard Board Member Del Marone in terms of, you know, if this could be something that's paid for from someone else and not costing the district, so be it. But again, we still have the final decision about what happens at the
No
end of the
matter
day.
what.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's sort of like unsweetened tea.
Is there any more discussion?
So there's a third option, which is to table this, which is
I apologize.
what I wanted,
Yeah.
which is what I suggested, that we table this so that it can come before the subcommittee meeting, so we can actually do a deeper dive and look at this and get some of the questions answered. So it's just not sprung on us. Because I would like to look into this deeper and then have a discussion and then bring it back to the board.
Pastor
Madam Chair,
Gilbert?
I call the question, please.
Yes. So, the motion, you want to make an amended motion, or you want to just vote on the motion as is? Or you want to take,
Point of
Point of
order.
order.
The question's been called.
Yeah, no more discussion on it.
okay. So, let me read, hold on, get my glasses.
Well, I have a question that goes along with, because I need a point of information on this. What subcommittee is this supposed to come before?
From which one?
What subcommittee is Mr. Jones supposed to bring this before?
Okay, I'm gonna look at that as rhetorical.
Finance, right?
So, the motion to move action item 5.2 to the regular board meeting for adoption will be conducted by a roll call vote, and we're voting as is. As I call your name, reply yes or no to approve. Danielle Green, yes. Laura McIntyre. Yes, ma'am.
She made a motion to.
She never officially made the motion. She just said it was a third option, but she never made the motion.
That's correct.
I thought I made the motion.
Unless you did it while I was in the restroom, I missed it. I didn't hear her make a motion, am I wrong?
At the beginning, I motioned to table this. Yeah.
I know you said you would like to, but I didn't, okay, maybe I missed something. Okay, I apologize. So you're making a motion to
To
table?
table this,
Okay,
yeah.
can we get a second?
I know, well, I made the motion before.
Can we get a second?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am, I mean, yes, sir.
when you call for the question, that ceases debate.
You're right, you're right. So we're moving forward. Okay, I vote yes. Laura McIntyre.
No.
Joyce McNeil.
To move it, are we moving it to move it?
Move it as is.
As is.
No further discussion, once we move it.
No, call for the question. We already called for the question.
Because I'm so confused what you guys trying to do right now.
To move it as is, move it forward as is.
And with no amendment, no nothing.
No,
just-
as is.
Okay, I would just put a no there for right
Okay.
now.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Pastor Gilbert?
Yes.
Carol McIntosh?
Yes.
Chris Delmarone?
Yes.
Motion passes for,
Yes.
I think, 4 yes and 2 noes.
What about
It's
you?
only 6 votes.
Right, I missed somebody. Did I miss somebody?
Yourself?
You, yourself.
No, I said yeah in the beginning. No, I ain't missed myself.
5-2.
5-2, I'm
5-2,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah,
You got
5-2.
5 yes and 2 no.
I'm sorry,
That's what you
guys.
should have.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Jones, I appreciate it.
Thank you, board members.
Seeing no further action, I declare the Governance Committee of the whole meeting adjourned. At this time, I will call the Finance and Operations Committee of the whole to order. I'll now call Board Member McIntyre.
I would like to call the Finance and Operations Committee of the whole meeting to order. I would like to recommend that, because we did not have a subcommittee meeting this month, that we table all agenda items until we can have a finance subcommittee meeting.
I don't have the, do I have it?
I made a motion. Do I get
I
a-
will support that with
Here
a
we go.
friendly amendment. The friendly amendment being, well, I'll support that, and then I'll introduce the friendly amendment afterwards.
You support a motion to table all agenda items for finance and operations? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yep. And the friendly amendment is to line item each one, to vote on each authorization separately.
None of these have come before the finance subcommittee
Yeah, I don't know.
meeting. So I'm just saying, you want to separate.
Yeah. I want to vote on each of them separately. I think some of them might be time sensitive.
Yeah.
If they're time sensitive, why couldn't they come before?
So we're not voting on a motion to table the entire Finance and Operation Committee. So which ones?
That was
the
my motion.
So you supported that, Mr. Delmarone?
What I want to do is support the amendment,
Okay,
which I did,
right.
and then I introduced a
Friendly.
substitute motion, a friendly amendment,
Okay,
to vote on each 11.11 individually, 11.2 individually, and 11.13 individually,
okay,
to table those.
okay. So I'll take a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we in discussion?
We in discussion, yes.
Support? I just had a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think, excuse me, just a point of order, I think my friendly amendment would need a second.
Okay, I second that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So trustee Walker?
Yep, the only thing that I had, I think Board Member Delmarone brought up a good point, is just the time sensitivity of these items that we're looking at. I just don't know, so I was hoping that we can maybe hear from our staff in terms of the time sensitive of this nature, of the items 1110, 1111, and 1112.
And
So
13?
for 1111, which is the invoice to pay Plant Moran, we have a due date on the invoice. If we table it until February, where we will have a subcommittee meeting, it just wouldn't be able to be paid until February. So, I mean, when they send the invoice, it is due upon receipt.
So Pastor Gilbert, you have a question?
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
And then Carol.
I'm sorry, did you want me to go through every item, or I was just started with the first one? We didn't get to the second one yet. So were you asking a question about this one in particular?
Yes, I just, you spoke about the time part of it. So break that down again as far as when it won't affect it? It won't affect the payment, or it won't affect?
So we won't be able to pay it until you guys approve it, because you need to authorize more funds to pay the invoice. And so we wouldn't have a subcommittee meeting until February. And so, and it would go to the board in the middle of February, and so it wouldn't be able to be paid until after February's board meeting.
If we approve it.
Yeah,
If,
so,
that's correct. If
right,
it is
if we
approved.
approve it.
Correct.
Okay.
But the services have already been rendered.
Point of information.
So we owe the fee.
Trustee McIntosh?
Okay, thank you.
A piece of this Plant Moran portion that I looked over includes some of our investigations and things of that nature. They have not even given us a written report to their findings, but yet you submitted a bill. When we spoke on the phone, President Green, myself, and council with Plant Moran, they said they'd give us that information this week and the bill would be $10,000. I see a bill for $38,000 down here. Furthermore, it's a lot of stuff on this bill that they sent us for the audit, which is stuff that they've worked with the administration on. There should have been administrative duties that we are being billed for. So we need to table the whole thing, and I think we need to sit
So-
down with the financial
Point of order, yeah.
point of information. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah, point of information. This is exactly why I wanted to table this, because we did not, it was one of those situations where we were not allowed to have a finance subcommittee meeting because of previous precedent and administrative, there wasn't cooperation to get the finance subcommittee meeting posted for a public meeting announcement and to have all that to have it, because we were supposed to have it last Monday, which is why I made the motion to table these items so that we could discuss in subcommittee meeting, which I wanted to have last week. So, Mr. Delmarone, do you still want to separate these? They all need to be discussed. They're very high invoices. These things need to be discussed in subcommittee meeting.
I think they should be.
I'm not about to be bullied into paying another high invoice because of lack of planning and foresight where we didn't get the information in time.
Yeah, my notes on the first one is for what services, what did they provide?
Right.
No bid, I mean, how do we have a contract?
Exactly, so this needs to be
something outside the
tabled.
scope of the contract and then expect to get paid?
Precisely. So we need to table this, and I
withdraw
humbly
that.
suggest that we table these items so we can have these very pertinent and important discussions. It's been seconded, do you still want your friendly amendment?
No, I can withdraw that. I don't know if the support has to be withdrawn first, but I have.
Support. We have to.
So we,
Yep, support.
So we have a motion on the floor. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Johnson.
I just want to be clear, I'm not sure, but I know we're kind of moving fast here. Is this boiler stuff going to cause us to have any issues anytime soon? I just want to make sure that, you know, we're kind of clear that something is not going to break down on us before scholars come back, or I'm not sure, and I'm not trying to go against that. I just want to make sure that we're not going to cost us more money if we don't handle one of these items. That's all I'm trying to make sure of.
And my point of information was for the Plant Moran piece is where we didn't get sufficient oversight and insight.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I'm not talking about Plant Moran. I'm
Correct.
sorry, I should wait to get acknowledged, I'm sorry.
Right. And my point is, if it was so important and time-sensitive, then we should have had a subcommittee meeting when I requested it. So maybe we should have, if it's time-sensitive, then maybe we should have an emergency finance subcommittee meeting.
So may I clarify that the information about the boilers came during Christmas break, and we just so happened to be in the office at that time, and we received the information?
Correct, but during Christmas break last week, we were supposed to be working. We were supposed to have our subcommittee meeting last Monday. which would have been the 1st? or
So
the-
it would have been January the 3rd, which would have been the
January the 3rd.
first day back, and we would have had to have it posted for at least 18 hours in order for us to be able to have the subcommittee meeting.
Correct, and
For
I
the open for the
requested
public.
that in the previous subcommittee meeting, that happen, and it did not happen. You can look at the minutes of the subcommittee meeting. I explicitly requested that we have a finance subcommittee meeting on the 3rd because it was a working business day. I got a little pushback, and then it was agreed that that would happen, and it did not happen. So if
We had
this is...
agreed that we would have a discussion, because we thought Monica was going to be back.
No, we
And we
didn't.
were going to have a discussion to see what was the past practice about not having meetings in January, and then Monica didn't come back. So that's what I asked, if we could have the opportunity to discuss this with Monica first.
With all due respect, Mrs. Dumpre, I rejected that. I said no, that I wanted the subcommittee meeting on the 3rd. Trustee Del Maroney, Trustee McNeil, you were both there.
Trustee McNeil was not there. It was
Point of
Walker.
order.
Sorry, was it, who was it?
Point of order.
It was Walker.
Yourself, myself, and
Okay.
Brother Walker
Apologize.
were there, and Trustee
not agree to-
Dale Maroney was part of the public. I have to say, Sister McIntyre, that Ms. Donpre is correct in her remembrance of what was said. And she took note to the fact that we were not comfortable with the fact we couldn't have the meeting and take care of the business in committee. That's the way I remember that. Is that correct, Ms. Donpre?
That is correct.
Yeah, and
She
so,
requested it, and I said no,
yes, that's correct.
because I
She said, but the
want to
past,
appeal to Monica because Monica was not going to come back in time. And so I requested to have the finance subcommittee
You
meeting as scheduled.
yeah, on the 3rd.
Correct.
Yep, you did do that. And she gave us that past practice disposition at that time. And so that's what I recollect.
So I call for the question. We have before us a motion to table these 3 agenda items until they can be reviewed by the finance subcommittee meeting. It's been seconded, it's been properly seconded. I'll go through a roll call. As I call your name, please reply yes or no to approve. Danielle Green?
Yes.
Chris Del Maroney?
The motion is to table this, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yes, to table.
Joyce McNeil?
Yes.
Adrian Walker?
Yes.
Alan Gilbert?
Yes.
Carol McIntosh?
Yes.
And myself, Laura McIntyre, passes 7-0. Thank you, Mrs. Dumpre and Mr. Pete. Seeing no further action, I declare the Finance and Operations Committee of the whole meeting adjourned. I now turn the floor back over to the board president for the rest of the agenda.
Thank you so much. At this time, I call the Superintendent Jones for the superintendent's update. Mr. Jones?
Okay, all right. Before I go into that, is it possible, are we saying that we're going to try to get a subcommittee meeting before the next board meeting, or are we saying, Ms. Laura, we're going to wait until the February meeting? I just want to make sure I'm clear so I know how to operate.
I said that it was possible, that if it was so time-sensitive and expedient, that we could schedule a meeting, but we did not agree, we did not do that. The motion was for it to be tabled until the next meeting, which will be in February.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to need somebody to kind of help me navigate this, and I'm going to try to make this quick, but I was in conversation, some of this stuff we've already talked about, but in conversation with some board meeting members, I was asked to kind of quickly go through what we have presented in our community forums in a board meeting. And so what you see here, all of you have been to a community forum. I'm just going to kind of show you some of the slides and speak to the public about what we actually talked about. We did welcomes and introductions, future focus, renovating, rebuilding, and re-energizing. We talked about our ESSER funds and the overview, and then we participated in a gallery walk and also Google surveys. And then we had really awesome conversation with our public and the staff that was present. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And then we went over the model which speaks to structured community conversations that we're currently trying to move into our advisory to make recommendations to our community relations and myself to be able to bring to board as it pertains to recommendations to move our district forward as it pertains to those questions that were given. You can move to the next slide. So we went over the ESSER funding. We talked about the allocations and what we spent it on. You can move to the next slide. And go ahead. This is ESSER 2. And then we talked to the community and asked them for their input on the $99.3 million that's coming into our district or we have open to spend now. And you can go forward. And board members, I told you that I was doing some work to try to figure out what was going on with our third-party cost. And we all want to bring our third party in. So I spoke with Ms. Domprey and the team to put together, to do some work, and you should have that. I did there's a spreadsheet that Ms. Domprey has done. Just the red one is really the one that's most necessary. And we can, I think it's necessary to also try to bring this into the Finance Committee to have more conversation, but I sent it over to Ms. Sokelski just so she had eyes on it as well and could, you know, kind of let me know what she thought about this work because she had dealt with the third parties as well. She agreed that this information is correct. We pay our third party $4.1 million to bring them all back into the district, and we're only talking edu staff and teach out would be $8 million for the district to pay. Our cost savings right now is $3.8 million, and understand that that is a rising annual cost if we brought them totally back into the district, and this does not include Sodexo Magic and CSM as we are working with them to get the proper information so that we can include them in this information as well. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, when you get, I got it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm looking at the edu staff and teach out third-party costs, and I see that we save approximately almost $4 million. Now, here's my argument with that. Edu staff is supposed to provide us with school teachers, but a lot of times they don't provide us with nothing. We don't have sufficient, they don't have the teachers. They still don't have anybody. But even if they don't have anybody, we still got to pay them that $4 million. See, if we were doing it ourselves, we know how many people we have, and we wouldn't be paying them if they didn't actually show up. They get paid, they're 4 point whatever, or however many millions the contract is, I would think.
So they get paid based on the services. We don't just pay them.
So we're paying them this $4.1 million for these services that, because we always short, we don't never have enough. So that's the cost. So if they actually met the goal, which I'm sure.
It would probably be more.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So the cost savings might not even be $4 million because they're not meeting the criteria. And I'm sure your estimate for the district is for you to actually meet the criteria. So my point is, this may not be a true reflection of what we save because they're not really rendering those many services. And we know our teach out, I like teach out, but they could kick it up a whole lot more. And I'm sure if we were staffing these things ourselves, that the cost savings would reflect in the services that we're not receiving from them. So I just wanted to share that.
I hear you. It's reflecting what we're actually
getting.
what we actually getting right now.
Right.
That's what it's reflecting.
And your 8
The 8 million is what it would take for us at this moment to bring them back. However, those are rising costs annually.
Right.
So it will continue to rise, but at this time, we're paying the 4.1. And I hear what you're saying.
Gotcha.
If we brought more behavior specialists on, right, but that's a whole nother conversation. But if we brought more behavior specialists on like we need to, if they sent us more behavior specialists, it would be more of a cost, which in turn, it would cost us more.
Right.
So I just wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront, and we can definitely continue to look at it, but the real goal is enrollment. The real goal is enrollment and bringing our scholars back on, and all of the work, board members, that we're all doing now as it pertains to getting in our community and getting the word out that Flint Community Schools is the place to be. You can go to the next slide. And so we've talked about most of this, but I wanted to kind of let you know what we have been working on and what we are currently working on. The administration organizational chart, I've been working to try to determine what would be cost, where we can find cost savings, to determine the first tier. I think it's 2 slides down, but if you can go down a slide, go down one more, I'm sorry, right here. So I would, this is what's coming to you. So I wanted to give you a briefing on some things that's going on. I want to make Ms. Kiana Murphy the assistant superintendent, and I want to bring on an executive director of academics that will support me with the academics and keep the other 2 executive positions there. There's a cost savings here because with the assistant superintendent, when I was superintendent, it was fully paid for out of the general fund. Well, with this setup, the assistant superintendent can be paid for partially out of grant funding, and also the executive director of academics can partially be paid out of grant funding. So I just want to let you know where I am as it pertains to trying to move us forward and get this executive team settled and get the organizational chart going. So if you can go, that's just that. I wanted to show you where I was with that. And when you see things come forward, it's based on this organizational chart. Will you go back 2 slides? 3? Yeah, right there. And then just to talk to you about what we're doing, community forums. I created this in December and was going to present this to you in December, but in our board meeting, we got busy with other things. So the scholar roundtables, we're setting those up with principals. I talked to the principals in the principals meetings, and the staff forums in February. In the midst of those forums, we want to get to our community spaces, as we spoke of in these meetings. Hasselbring, we also want to, Board Member McNeil, with your support, and I'd love to talk about that, trying to get into our Hispanic communities in the midst of all of these scholar roundtables and staff forums, which will probably take place, the scholar roundtables will take place during the day. I can do some of our community forums, Hasselbring and other places at night, but the staff forums would also take place after school, and we would try to do those right after school so we don't keep staff all day. That's where we are. On the other side of that blue, it is talking about determine outsourced support for data gathering, and that's what we just had a large conversation about with Insight. And then the advisory committees. We did have one session. I sent to your emails the notes from that session, but we also had this conversation just now about synthesizing that information and making sure we figure out ways to get that data out and keep that data moving fast. Strategic plan. Will you go to the next slide, please? So as you all know, we have been working, I talked to many of you, but we have been working on the strategic plan over the last year. However, I believe that through the work that we've done in our community forums, hearing from our community, we have an opportunity to add that information into the strategic plan that we're trying to create. I have reached out, I talked to Ms. Carroll before the board meeting started. I have reached out to Debbie Stair again today to try to get information on the dates to present to you so that you can pick a date as a board to start this action with MASB. I will call every day until we get those dates. But I wanted to, it was the wishes of some board members that I kind of started talking about the strategic plan and what those strategic priorities are. Scholar focus, all district decisions and systems will support the development of the whole child. Teaching and learning, the district has expectations for high levels of teaching and learning in an environment that supports innovation, and that goes along with what we've been hearing in our community forums. Climate and culture, the district will build and promote a culture and climate of excellence that's conducive to high levels of teaching and learning. Staffing, as we've talked about some of that today, the district must attract, recruit, and retain high-performing teachers, administrators, and staff with the focus of educating the whole child. And lastly, finance. The district will align all fiscal resources to support high levels of teaching and learning while maintaining fiscal responsibility, accountability, and restraint. So I would like the general public to know that our board and our school district, we are in the midst of a strategic plan, working this out, but we want to make sure that the voices of our community is heard, and I wanted to make sure that the public knew that we do have a plan, and we're working to get this plan done and out to our public and voted on by our board. Can you go back up, please? Back up, yep. And so then renovations and hydration stations. We're going to have to get the architects involved as soon as possible. I've talked to Kiana and Ms. Domprey about how do we go about doing that to ensure that we're moving swiftly, but we're also doing what we're supposed to do to get the right architects in. Doyle Ryder, again, August is an urgent return date. So everything we're doing is trying to move that work as swift as possible. And I would like to report to you that I had a meeting today with Laura Sullivan and ARC Environmentalists. Our hydration stations are ready for us to cut the ribbon and to start using. And so we talked today. Dr. Sullivan is willing to come in and give you some detail about the work that was done with ARC Environmentalists. That work is complete, and the water that is coming out of our hydration stations is lead-free and bacteria-free. And so we have not released them to be used yet because we wanted to do it in a fashion that was like a grand opening to those stations. Also, we're scheduling the Northwestern Utilization Report. We're going to continue to wait to get that feedback of when they're going to get that done for us. And then the teaching and learning, continuing our literacy focus, COVID protocols. There's a new toolkit coming out tomorrow that I'll share with you when we get it from the health department. And then the distance learning. We have a meeting tomorrow with our local health community to discuss whether Flint Community Schools should return to face-to-face learning or should we stay virtual at this time. What we have found out is that the peak of the Omicron is supposed to be in February. And so that is going to help guide our decision-making, just so you know, and we're going to continue to try to move forward. I wanted you to see these things so you can know we are busy. We are trying to get some things done in our district. It's a lot for us to get done. We have some timelines. If you can move forward, and I'll be finished. One more. Thank you. So we want to engage with an architect and create a scope of work for our renovations. In February, we want to get the general contractors going. In March, we want to request the state approvals for the renovations. That is a process. That's going to take some time. And we want to get the construction going with Doyle Ryder between April and August so that we can have them back in their school by August when we start school. This is the mindset, and this is the plan, and this is where we are. And I am always open to hear from our board for your expertise and assistance in getting this work done. But I wanted to brief you on where the district was and what the work that we're doing and we're trying to accomplish. Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Before I adjourn, do any board members have any comments? Dr. McNeil?
I have a couple of comments, maybe questions. You did a great job there, Mr. Jones, in bringing that to the public. But it's something that I think we need to address from one of our public speakers, and that's GISD. We as a board, we need to start to making, I don't know where we start to working on that GISD, Mr. Jones, but we need to kind of start doing that immediately. And so that's
GSRP?
a GISD. Early child.
Oh, early child, okay, GRS.
Yeah, so what we'd like to know is that we want to start working on that, and what is the process and where we need to start at. That was number one. Number two, Mr. Walker has spoken in our last year about these ESSA committee, and I believe we might have taken a vote on that, putting together a committee to work with the ESSA, and that's something that we need to look at. We don't have to pay nobody like the city $3 million trying to, because we have a good team here in doing that. My third thing is that with Mr. Marcy coming back, could we kind of utilize the schools as a vaccination clinic, set up some type of clinic where using the school where we can have nurses and stuff come in and set up a clinic like we're doing in other different places where when Ms. Tomasi come back, so we can get these kids vaccinated. I think the CDC just approved 5 and over. So there's 3 different things that I spoke of, but those are something that we really have to address, especially with the GISD early childhood. And that's it for me.
You want to comment for a minute?
Go ahead.
Thank you to my colleagues and to Madam Chair Green. Congratulations to you, and to Superintendent Jones. I would only add that in the part where you talk about the teacher and the staffing, that in there somewhere you put aggressively. That's the only thing I would say. Thank you.
You're talking about
In your model.
strategic plan.
Yeah, in your strategic plan, exactly. Yeah.
Mr. Walker?
Yep, and y'all know I like to say I'll always be quick. I just have a couple for Mr. Jones and then some overall comments. Mr. Jones, as it relates to the strategic plan, what is the duration for that? And when I say 5-year strategic plan, okay, that's helpful. And then the other thing that I think is important, I commend you for being taking the aggressive approach to, go back to virtual or distance learning. But with that being said, when you read articles, we also know the impact the academic impact that has in terms of students, specifically marginalized students within our school district, right? So as we're talking about plans, I think we have to start to discuss with community, what is our plan for recovery for those students that have been impacted by, again, the distance learning piece as well.
You want me to speak to that?
If you can, and then I'll come back really quick for last.
Okay, so we do have, I did present to the board a couple months ago a recovery plan. I think Ms. Stewart was still here at that time. And that recovery plan still stands regardless of us being out now. I will bring that back up so that we can see that again. But we do have a recovery plan that every department had played a part in to ensure that we have plans for the achievement gap that is there. Now, I will answer you by saying, yes, we have a recovery plan, but I will also say this. As I've stated to the media, we have to really think about safety at this moment, right? And I know that our scholars have already been behind, a lot of them. I just don't want to have our scholars out there, and you don't either, I know that, have our scholars sick and down and can't learn, right? So what's the alternative? You know, the alternative is to keep them safe. And you know what? We're going to get you back in here, and we're going to try to get the right people in to support your learning and get more parapros or whatever we need to do to support your learning. And as I was asked today by Channel 12, you know, what do you say to that parent that do not like distance learning? I say to that parent, we apologize that you have to deal with this at this time, but I'm glad that your child is safe and is not stricken by this variant. But we will do our best to get them back in school as soon as we can. But we need to do what we've been doing, and that's following our local health experts who's been helping us since March of 2020 and helping us make informed decisions.
Okay. And then my last comment is I just wanted to thank former Madam President McIntosh for her leadership. I know you've been on the board long before a lot of us, but with that being said, I don't think I know there isn't a blueprint to be in that seat during the midst of a pandemic and everything that we're going through. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your leadership, for helping me as a new board member. I look forward to working with you, Board Member Green, and you, and the rest of the board as we look to move forward. But I did have a question as it relates to our subcommittees. So I know we have, new chairs given the bylaws and how that operates, but how will the selection process go for what committees each of us will now be on and when we get that information? I don't know how that plays out.
Well, because when you take the seat, like you're the secretary, so you would chair
academics.
So what we've done in the past is that, what we've done in the past is we kind of decide, what I'm going to do is to decide amongst, like, what would you prefer?
Yep.
I want feedback because I want people to be engaged and I want them to want to be on the committee, because in the past I was on committees I didn't want to be on.
Right.
So we don't want to do that.
Right.
So I'm going to reach out and have conversations and we will narrow it down, and hopefully everybody will get to be on the committee that they choose to be.
And then my last thing is, I'll say that I know Monday we're celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday and the holiday. And I know, again, we're coming up on February, which is Black History Month, but we've had a conversation in our committee, in our academics committee, about how for us Black History is 365, right? It's something that should be incorporated into our curriculum. Last night, I got a chance to watch The Women of the Movement that talked about the Emmett Till story, and it took me back to my childhood and what I wasn't taught within that classroom and the shame that was. So I hope that, again, these stories are shared and our children have a chance to learn about all history, but including Black history. So I just wanted to leave it at that.
So we made the point in our principals meeting Tuesday.
Oh, good.
To bring up that committee meeting and to say we need to highlight the Flint historians and those who were activists in Flint. And so the principals are on board. I told them I needed to get with a couple board members because we had, I don't know everyone that you all may know that are activists in our community, but we are trying to highlight Flint for February, for Black History Month. So I will be in touch because the principals are on board to do that, and also have some live streams with some of those folks so that we can have them and talk to them and have some scholars talk to them as well. So that's great.
Good job.
Yeah.
I think it was Laura. I'm sorry.
So, a couple things. As we move forward, our subcommittee meetings, they're scheduled on particular dates, and I think they should simply be scheduled, and if they need to be canceled, cancel them, as opposed to.
They are.
Oh, okay.
They are. We just need to call it, yeah.
All right. And I notice in our committee of the whole, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on our regular board meetings, the agenda, there's no approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. And I think it's important that we approve those minutes just for an official record. You can look at tonight, there's nothing about approving any minutes from.
I'm not sure, but I think we usually do that in the committee of a whole meeting, and then you approve all your minutes from your prior meetings. So the committee of a whole meeting, we will see the minutes listed in that packet, and then you'll approve the minutes.
Well, so I have that.
Yes.
In the regular board meeting.
Oh, okay, well, one specific meeting is when we do the minutes.
Regular board.
Which I'm not, thank you.
All right. Is any movement being made towards getting the student liaison? A student liaison or two student liaisons on the board to attend the board meetings? And I recognize COVID, but, I mean, I brought that up, I think, one of the first meetings I was here.
Ms. Kiana has been working on that. She brought that up to me. She has been working on that. We need to probably get that done before our next board meeting. Kiana, do you want to speak to that?
Oh, yeah.
And they will identify board reps. Because that structure is not in place, we need to come up with something different in order to identify and select those scholars to participate. So we did have that conversation prior to break, and so we'll revisit that selection process. Ms. Fields thought she might have some students in mind, and Mr. Acknowledgement did as well. So once we establish a new process, the whole process is not in place, we will bring those to be a part of it.
Okay, and I think that would be good, very important. First, it's in our bylaws. Second, as we're working to include more, let me say, segments of our society, it's important that the students are here. You know, and I think that's it for right now. Thank you.
Board Member McIntyre?
Yeah, and just on a more somber note, my fellow classmate, Tony Palladino, fellow Walker, Flint Open School comrade, passed this past week. And I just wanted to pay tribute to an incredible warrior and Flint resident and Flint alum in this community, one of the Town Hall 6 who was arrested, always fighting, always there. It leaves a big hole in the city and in our school district. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know if we want to do a minute of silence,
Absolutely.
but Tony, I'm going to miss you and love you, buddy.
I want to add to what Laura just said, that he was instrumental when we were fighting GISD to get the money that's owed to us for our special needs student. Tony showed up and showed out, as he always did. That was the only time I worked with him, but he left such an impact. I was so, because I don't know if he standed to gain anything, but it didn't matter. He was there every single time we had a meeting with GISD. And I think it's so unfortunate he left such an impression on me. I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing. So he will be missed. The city needs more Tonys. And unfortunately, we don't have that many of them, so we will be missing Tony. Oh, I'm sorry, Pastor Gilbert.
I'd just like to echo what Sister McIntyre said about Tony Palladino. I remember the first time that I met Tony, which has been about 13 years ago, and he was going back and forth like he would with anybody, basically, but he never held grudges. Of course, I didn't know that because that's the first time I met him. And so when I turned to greet him, he greeted me, and he put his arm around me. He said, "How you doing, my brother?" I said, "I'm doing good, Tony." He says, and what is your name?" I said, "Well, I'm Pastor Gilbert." He said, "You Pastor Gilbert, and you let me stand up here and do all that cussing in front of you like that?" I said, "Well," I said, "Man," I said, "if cussing's gonna keep us out of heaven, ain't gonna be no heaven." And so anyway, that's how I met Tony, and me and him were, we hit heads, and we were always locked together. And then a little bit after that, that's when I met Brother Woodson. And so, and I remember very vividly, I don't think Brother Woodson would mind me saying this, but they would get into it, and they would really get down to the nitty-gritty. And then they'd go and have some coffee or juice or a hamburger or fries or something like that. And I seen it. I seen it in Lansing. I seen it several times. And what I loved about Tony Palladino is that he never held a grudge. He always kept his head straight for the enemy that was against our city. He never allowed anything to detour him. He called it like he saw it.
Well, I don't know, he might have kept a grudge against Governor Snyder. But
Yeah, he really stood up against him. And so I really remember him. And to also Sister Carolyn McIntosh, and I really appreciate you so very much. We've worked together prior to this time, but you took a lot of heat, and you stood in there and you took your blows, and that's what it's all about. That's what good leadership is all about. I think someone said earlier, you're not always going to agree, but you got to keep your head, they say keep your head down. No, you got to keep your head up. Because if people are not coming for you, maybe you're not doing too much. And so I thank God for you. And we need you. We know you'll be here, and we're going to continue to work together and support the new officers and help them all that we can. And we'll critique them just like we critiqued you. And sometime, and then it may come my time. But I just think that we can get there. It's so very important. We got some critical issues that we got to really get moving on, and we don't have a lot of time. So thank you very much, and by all means, be safe.
Absolutely. Anyone comments, board? Oh, Chris Delmaron.
Just real quick, I heard about Tony's passing Monday as I was walking into City Hall for a city council meeting, and it took me by surprise. I asked when did it happen, and they said about 3 weeks ago as far as when he came down with it, or so, maybe 4 weeks now. And I go, well, I just saw him back then at a city council meeting. We had a chance to speak. But yeah, he was a true fighter, and I would like to move on board member Laura's idea of just having a moment of silence for him and his family. So if we can do that.
I'll keep time.
Thank you, sir. A moment of silence for Tony Palladino. Rest in peace.
Rest in power.
Bad choice, sorry.
Next regular board meeting will be held on Wednesday, January 19th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Seeing no further action, I declare the board meeting of the committee of the whole meeting adjourned. Time is
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock on the nose.
And y'all didn't give me a chance to say nothing at the end, but I just wanted you guys to know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Carol.
That's okay.
I'm listening.
I just wanted you all to, I just wanted to tell you guys, whatever decisions you make, I respect them. Like Pastor Gilbert said, I took a lot of heat that I didn't even share with you guys, and it's been exasperating. It has been daunting. So I have no problem with passing the torch, I wish everybody the best in their new jobs, and I'm just praying for the district. And it's, like I said, it's been an honor, and I'll be here to support you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.